Welcome back to the Racial Draft Podcast. I am your host, Michael Ford, joined by a lovely group of nerds today from all of her various platforms, including Cosmic Circus, the Mary Sue, where else?
Coming soon, and coming soon is the one I'm giving a shout out today. You'll see why later this week if you follow me. But yes, coming soon is the site that gets the shout out today. I write for them. I do things for them. It's fun. But what Michael said is also
yes, and that's Julia Delbel, and she's keeping this little streak going. I like it. Also keeping the streak going is Randy.
And I do none of those interesting and useful things, but happy to be here anyway.
And we're also joined by from Muteville. You'll hear his dulcet tones in a little bit, but he's currently in Muteville, and that's Toriono from I forgot the name of the podcast. Help me out, Randy.
Comic Book Saga.
Comic Book Saga. Thank you. And that's Toriono. But if this is your first episode, I apologize, but what we do here is change the complexion of the comic book universe, one draft pick at a time via the Racial Draft. However, before we get into our sizable Racial Draft business in the final week of the main regular season draft, before we get into all of that, we're going to get into, a little bit of nerd news. And unfortunately, we do have to start with a heavy heart. Unfortunately, in the past week, we lost one of the greats of the comic book industry, and that's George Perez, the legendary writer, the legendary artist and writer from Crisis on Infinite Earths, Wonder Woman, Avengers. I did know that he was ill, but I will go around as everyone kind of pays their respect to the legendary George Perez. I'll start with you, Julia.
Yeah, it's sad, of course. I feel like he was only 67, which isn't that old.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I wish he could live longer. I'm pretty sure I've read some of his stuff. Like, I don't remember which is which, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure I've read some of his stuff. He was mostly doing DC, right? And I do read a lot of those.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So yeah, it's just sad, but he leaves a great legacy behind.
Yeah, for sure. Randy?
I mean, I'm in that same boat. I'm not really big on author names and artist names, but George Perez's name definitely is someone who came up early, even now into my just kind of sort of coming into the comic book reading and stuff like that. And anytime I see his art or kind of hear about the stories, his name rings instantly in my mind. So he will always be missed, and his inspiration will forever be felt. I feel like he's irreplaceable.
Yeah. And we've also been joined by the champ himself, Carlos. Carlos, do you have any words about the tragic passing of George Perez?
I mean, obviously it's a tragedy, like you said. It's kind of this awesome blessing that he almost had this kind of farewell tour. Like because he announced it was public, and everyone was able to kind of just bestow all of the flowers before he left. And so I think that's always like, you don't want it to see it happen at this age. You don't want to see it happen in this way. That's a horrible way to go out. But the fact that everyone was able to kind of say like, hey, you meant a lot to me. And then, from a personal perspective, I remember the first time like I saw the name Perez in a comic book and just being like, well, clearly that's just going to be a white man who's got a Spanish last name. It's like, there's no way he could look like me or an uncle of mine or anything. But he was a trailblazer in that way. And even it's funny, like I was very much a 90s comics kid. I was Greg Capullo and Todd McFarlane. Those are like the guys that I kind of came with. Jim Lee. Those are the guys I kind of came up with. George Perez is almost like, in my head, his art is like kind of like the platonic form of comic books. Like that's what I'm thinking of, that all of these other artists were kind of whatever innovating off of, but his work was innovative. So like I'm just thinking, it's like, a kid born today who thinks PlayStation 5 is the earliest possible video game system, whereas the rest of us are like, I remember 8-bit graphics, and so George Perez, even though as a child I didn't really appreciate his art because it was like, yeah, that's just what comic books look like. It's like, no, that's what his comic books look like, and that's what comic books all strive to be, is George Perez art. And then yes, art has moved on, in various ways since then, but he laid that groundwork in a lot of ways. So yeah, RIP to a legend.
Yeah. Like I said, Toriono's mostly in Muteville for the early part of the show, but I'm sure, he has his thoughts go out as well. It's weird. It's always a weird transition to go from a tragic story to a quirky story, but I will do my best. We will talk a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about HBO Max. They're making big moves, especially in the comic book world. I'm sure you heard, but maybe the listeners have not heard, that Amanda Waller will be reprising her role as Viola Davis will be reprising her role as Amanda Waller. That's how I think that's how acting works, right?
that is how iconic she is as Amanda Waller. Yeah.
Yes.
That's how it works.
So she will be, she's in talks, so it has not been officially confirmed, but it's pretty close, given that the trade's reporting it, that she will be getting a series. Now, those of you who are big DC readers, I know Randy, you are one of them.
Begrudgingly, yes.
Are there certain comic book properties that you'd like to see centered around Amanda Waller?
I mean, there's been a couple of times, I believe, where we see stories about like the story focuses specifically on Amanda Waller herself, but outside of the Suicide Squad, another thing that she's really well known for is Checkmate, which is like kind of it's less the sort of straight up Suicide Squad, getting the villains to kind of do your dirty work, and sort of more of a straightforward like spies and assassins and that kind of intrigue. And I feel like that would be really interesting to see kind of more like, because Suicide Squad, of course, it focuses more on the characters themselves, the villains themselves, like going out there doing whatever mission they're assigned to do. We kind of get to see this inner exploration of who they are. But in Checkmate, we can kind of see more behind the scenes in regards to like the decisions that Amanda makes, and tease out that sort of the villainy of it all, while still making her a really freaking compelling character. Like she's like one of the few villains who kind of doesn't lose at the end of the superhero shenanigans, which is really interesting to consider.
And I should mention that there's already a writer and showrunner in place, which makes it even more likely that this is going to be picked up. And that's Christelle Henry, who you might know from Watchmen. What I was thinking is almost kind of, obviously Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a dirty word in canon circles. But I think that to the extent that Amanda Waller could be connective tissue in the DC, whatever you want to call their universe, if it exists, to the extent that she as the kind of Nick Fury-ish character in the universe can have her eyes on all the different goings on in the universe. So it could almost be like a darker, maybe more violent version of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where she's coordinating different missions that tie into the various stories that are happening in the movies. As a way to make the universe retroactively seem more cohesive.
Yeah.
What about you, Carlos? You have any thoughts about that idea?
I think that's kind of the natural way to go. I personally, now that you've brought it up and have incepted it into my brain, I just think Amanda Waller should be a character actor on all of the HBO shows. Amanda Waller on Ballers season 6, Amanda Waller in the new Sex and the City. I think it'd be fantastic. But no, seriously, like Amanda Waller, yeah, she's the Nick. It's like a perfect kind of spot. Like she's the Nick Fury, and no one trusts her. And the thing I liked about Peacemaker was that, like, because there was a family tether, it's like, okay, she's not like 100% sociopathic. She has a daughter who she does care about, although
but she's trying to make her daughter into another version of her.
Right. Maybe she doesn't care about her daughter as much as I care about my children, or at least she shows it in a different way. But like, it's not like she's not playing a robot, which exactly. I think is great. And Viola Davis is like perfect for that role.
Yeah. So listen, every now and then DC makes moves that we can applaud, and this would fall under that. I mean, maybe she'll put the hit out on certain Flash actors. Maybe that'll be the first mission. Send them to Hawaii. Task Force Ezra. Just an idea, guys. Just an idea. Staying in the DC lane, we're going to talk a little bit about, mostly for racial draft business, I guess, tangentially. Did anyone see the trailer for the Green Lantern animated movie?
Sure did.
I saw that a trailer was released.
I mean, that's the news, guys. There's a Green Lantern animated movie. It's called Green Lantern Beware My Power. And would you know it, the main character is black. So it's Beware My Black Power.
I mean, this is what is the first time that John Stewart has been the solo Green Lantern protagonist, right?
I can't remember a time before then, but I'm not big into the animated movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right.
I believe this is the first time he's been the lead protagonist.
I mean, obviously we know that they are still working on an live action Green Lantern project. We haven't had a lot of news about that anytime recently, but it's good to know that they're thinking about ways to push John Stewart to the forefront. And I think depending on how his story plays out, maybe that'll give us a little bit of insight on how if they plan to ever introduce the Green Lantern into the movies, how they want to sort of frame the character of John Stewart. I mean, I've been pretty vocal around the idea that John Stewart as a solo character has really not gotten a lot of shine. Mm-hmm. He's typically presented in team formats. And in order to really make money with certain characters, you have to incorporate a solo arc for them. And if this is how they sort of lay the foundation for at least some segment of the masses, then it's a good first step to those of you who are big John Stewart fans, and not Daily Show fans, but the other coach. Julia, did you see the trailer?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I mean, we could do that thing where we react live on the podcast, but I like to save those for like the bigger trailers. So okay. I'm not going to put you on the spot there, but it was a cool trailer. It was fun. I think it's dropping July 26th 2022. So that is still within our racial draft season. And
Oh, well, see, I have to have it kind of more on my scope now. That's within my birthday range. Okay.
mhm.
I mean,
So-
big props to DC for not calling it Blackest Night. Like that's
No, that's the sequel.
Blackest Day, Blackest Night.
Yeah, no, you got to no. It's like Beware My Black Power, and then Blackest Night is when that's where they introduce not only Jon Stewart but Joe Malayan.
Right.
It's like it can get even blacker. So you don't want to.
Friday After Blackst, they just kind of throwing.
Yep. So yeah, got to sprinkle some bonus points. Got to sprinkle some bonus points to the Jon Stewart character, given that he's getting a little movie shine, even though it's not theatrical. It's still a little shine. So scroll.
There were a few characters in that trailer, but as it is not a theatrical release, I do understand only giving it to Jon Stewart.
It's just wild to me that it's taken so long for him to get like anything solo, because I mean, just even if you're like vaguely aware of the Justice League at all, he's one of the main like kind of favorites of that the animated series and
yeah,
like
but that's the thing
or whatever. So
yeah, but that's the thing, like you said. I mean, he's the favorite of the animated Justice League series. There's not a lot of like if you even people who are fans of Jon Stewart from the animated series, if you like strapped them down in a chair and said, "Tell me what Jon Stewart's solo story is. Tell it to me."
Well, I'm saying like, okay, I will say that there's overlap between the fans of the animated version and fans of the comic version of Jon Stewart, and like it's taken up until what 50 years that he's existed from the 70s to finally be like, hey, maybe we should do something with that guy. Could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and generally speaking, like I one of my pet peeves is that like sometimes when they don't have a solo arc for a character, they'll just make him the leader of a team.
Yeah.
Where his story is, I'm leading the team. We're doing stuff. And when the team does well, I do well. But there's these other person on this team that's much more interesting than me.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you get certain characters, then I mean, people will kind of be just sort of trained to feel like, well, they kind of work better in a team context, and they don't really work outside of that, which isn't the case.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta do the work as a writer. You have to ask yourself, like, what motivates this character? What is this character? What is important to the character, and how does this character get, to from point A to different points on the alphabet and grow along the way? And the problem that I see sometimes with Black characters is that they're a little bit too precious about Black characters, and they're almost like too good right off the bat. So there's not a lot of opportunity for growth. Like, it's like, he's already awesome. He's just going to be awesome in scenario A, awesome in scenario B, awesome in scenario C. And
because if we make him bad at something, we're racist.
Especially when you don't have, Black writers writing him, right? I call that the Storm problem. Like if someone non-white someone non-Black is writing Storm, they're so worried about, kind of messing up that it's just like, Storm is just awesome. That's easy. It's hard to give a character, foibles and flaws if you don't really understand how to make a character three-dimensional. And unfortunately, when it comes to certain characters demographically, it might be a little bit out of your depth. That's why, we talk a little bit about representation, both in front of the camera or on the page, as it were, and, behind the scenes. Part of what makes a story, more on a different podcast, but part of makes a story, more authentic is having creatives who can give the character a little bit more depth than the surface level, so that the character can have multiple dimensions and flaws and not feel like a trope or not feel one dimensional and falling into those kinds of stereotypes. So again, I get it. I get why you'd be like, just better to just have Jon Stewart be awesome at everything. But you know what's probably not going to sell a lot of copies? A guy who's just awesome at everything that never struggles at all.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, like, I know it's not a perfect comparison, but Into the Spider-Verse is the best comic book movie of all time. And it's about a Black Latino kid who is unsure of himself and isn't great at being Spider-Man, but has the potential, and then realizes, wait, I am as good. It's about, and that's the specific, that specific slice of minority storytelling about the kid who is a minority and he's very smart, but he's got imposter syndrome and he feels like, I don't belong at this boarding school. This isn't me. I belong with the people. When his dad is like, these are your people. Like, I know that, like, I was that kid. I went to prep school or a very affluent high school and stuff. And I definitely felt like I didn't belong there and stuff like that. So, like, it was a very specific story.
Speaking specifically about Spider-Verse, I mean, you also had the element of the uncle, who was, more like, had more street cred,
right?
Had more, like, he was cooler than his dad, so he had the gravitate as a young person, like, who's going to be my role model? Is it going to be my, like, maybe a little bit too, like, straight and narrow dad, or like my uncle who's, like, cool, but we find out is not, it's not necessarily on the right side of things,
right? And then it turns out the answer is yes. Like, he's going to pull from both. Like, because his uncle wasn't a two-dimensional, Black criminal. Like, they made him. He is a good uncle. He's not a great, adult, but he's a good uncle, and he's got good advice for his nephew. And so, like, all this to say that, like, there was a story there about a minority superhero who is unsure of himself and has to learn, and eventually he is as good as everyone else, if not better, as the other Spider-Man at certain things, but he has to go through that arc. And it's the exact opposite of racist. It's like, it's actually, like, the most inclusive superhero story.
Yeah. So all that is to come around and say, yet another, hey, you got Amanda Waller, you got Jon Stewart, maybe somebody at DC is actually is doing some good things. Well,
that the operative word is maybe.
Maybe they're making a discovery.
Like, I kind of made that joke, like, on the first day that we kind of heard about it, because it was like the day that we got that announcement of, like, Discovery was going to be a thing, and then they were at the same time they kind of dropped their commentary of, like, we need to take a look at these kind of lesser known characters and sort of elevate them. And I'm like, I just had this kind of just the stupidest smile on my face, because it was just like, finally someone is tuning into my thoughts at last. So
yeah, making it 3 for 3 with Black news, not exactly comic book news, but still nerd news. For the Whovians out there, we got news that there's a Black Doctor Who. Oh no, sorry, Doctor Who. That's just the grammar nerd in me jumped out. So I think his name is Shuti Gatwa. He is going. I've not seen his work in Sex Education, but he's going to be bigger on the inside of the TARDIS, and he's going to be going around the universe having adventures. Julia, are you a big Doctor Who fan?
I'm not exactly. Like, I've seen bits of it. I'm happy about this. I've heard this guy's good. So yeah, my dad's a big fan, so I'm happy.
Mhm.
Well, that's gonna have to give me an excuse to catch up. I'm like 2 seasons behind on Doctor Who. So
I am I want to say I'm like 2 episodes behind, but yeah, I mean I've been here since the start of New Who. My friends got me into it, and I'm forever grateful to them. But I love the idea that, because we've had the regeneration thing for decades. It's been there since for um years ago, and people of all of the kind of franchises that are being diversified and all this other stuff, there has been a clamor for years to be like, oh, when are we finally going to get a black doctor and all this other stuff? But really, the doctor is sort of the quintessential. If you look in this sort of frame of like a person of color, a black brown person playing the doctor, it's sort of the quintessential idea of representation, because they get to be um this sort of brilliant problem solver, leader person. We get a bit of both. We get like the leader, the problem solver, the whoever, but we also get to see the vulnerability of it all, and the kind of drama and pathos of it all, that like the hurt that they feel from their losses and things like that. And so when a black person gets to play the doctor, we get to say that not only can they be like a superhero, but they're part of like a legacy that sort of the utmost sort of mad genius of what black people can do and what black people can be. And so it's like, it's just really, my heart is full. Like I'm really just kind of freaking out that we have a black doctor, and we have Ruth, the previous actor who was in Jodie Whittaker's arc, but I don't think we're gonna really necessarily build on her in the live action. I believe she's gonna be more like an audio, maybe in the comics. But to actually have him there, he's still he's I believe he's Rwandan Scottish, I want to say. But yeah, so he's still Euro. So it's not like, oh, they just got some guy, but I'm really optimistic about this new era, and I think that they're aware of the pressures that are going to be there. But I really am looking forward to see how they knock it out of the park. I really am.
Toriano, do you have any further thoughts about the Color People Time Lord?
I can say that I am not the biggest Doctor Who fan, but I do know a little bit about Doctor Who. So it is good representation to me. And I'm pretty aware that they just had a black woman also, if I'm not mistaken. So seeing more representation is obviously, yeah. Seeing more representation is obviously a great thing. I'm excited to see it. Obviously, I'm not as caught up as you guys are, but I am interested in the show, and I will be watching this season in support. And I'm just glad to see something like this.
I heard what you said, a lot of things, but it sounds like you're talking about it's Dr. Woke and not Dr. Who. So I don't know. I feel like there's a certain segment of the fan base that's just they're out. They're 100% out.
The thing that's so funny to me, I mean, maybe I have just finally sealed up the last few cracks to hermetically seal my echo chamber, but I haven't seen a whole lot of like kind of negative backlash. I mean, obviously it's from kind of the same folks, but I haven't seen it nearly to the degree. Like it's been a whole lot of people just sort of like bright-eyed and looking toward this future here, whether it's from just generally kind of seeing a black character in the role, or from people coming over and being like, oh, Sex Education, I love this show, and I'm gonna now he gets to be in this other show that I like as well.
Well, to be fair, chances are when Jodie Whittaker became the doctor, you cleared like all of those people out of out of your circle. So like the people who were left, it's J.K. Rowling's basically anyone would have been the last person.
Now we're just sweeping away the last remaining roaches.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's so. I mean, the Black news ends. Well, I mean, that's not true. I've got one more little piece of Black news. You guys are going to help me. You guys are going to help me here because I don't know a thing about this franchise whatsoever. Percy Jackson was I guess that's a Black guy, right? No,
gotta be right.
Sounds like a guy from like a Motown group. Percy Jackson
he
and
next door to Bobby Caldwell. They're both Black. He lives next door to Bobby Caldwell.
Yeah, exactly. Percy
Jackson
and the
Olympians.
Percy Jackson and the Olympians sounds like a Motown group. I don't know. Like, but so we got some casting news for Percy Jackson and the Olympians, who you guys are telling me is not Black led. Fine, but Ariane Simhadriji and Leia Sava Jeffries were signed or what have you cast to play Grover and Annabeth. Like I said, I don't know anything about Percy Jackson, so lay it on me, Julia. You're aware of Percy Jackson. Let the listeners know about Percy Jackson.
Well, I'm not that into Percy. Like, I'm actually gonna watch this movie. I think it's gonna be good. I have never read the books. I was doing like a co-op placement in a classroom, like a grade 5/6 classroom when I was in grade 11. And they put on Percy Jackson one day. So I saw the first movie, and I know those other movies have not got good reception. So that's my limited knowledge, but I think it's great that they're, doing this and they're adding, diversity and all that, which is great. And I'm sure it's going to be good. I'm sure they picked some good people. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see what's like so good about the Percy Jackson franchise, like the books. Hopefully they do it based more on the books. And yeah, but I did hear about this news, so that's why I was nodding. I was listening.
So one thing that I did hear is that they got the author on board.
Yes, they did.
So I mean, not to make a Dance of Dragons, Game of Thrones joke, but sometimes when they don't have the author on board, things go awry. But yeah, Percy Jackson. Randy, do you have Percy Jackson thoughts?
I have general Greek mythology thoughts and general young adult fiction thoughts, and they are positive. I will leave it at that. Just because, like, I think my 11th grade English teacher, recommended them to me years ago, and I have failed you. I have not yet read the things. But yes, I saw the first movie, and that's kind of like the beginning and ending of my knowledge about it. But I am interested because it's definitely has always factored into my interest in Greek mythology. So yes, I will hope to tune into this as well.
Well, I haven't decided whether I'm going to tune in, but I'm definitely buying the album of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. So as soon as it drops.
I just like the idea, Percy Jackson sang on Psychedelic Shack, the Temptation Studio album. David Ruffin was out with gonorrhea then.
One thing though, is this a movie again or Disney Plus series?
I think it's
Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's a series.
I'm
it's
biggest fan.
I know it's something on Disney Plus. It's a series. Okay, cool.
Wait, Toriono, are you saying you're a fan?
I am the biggest fan. I grew up reading this book.
Oh wait, we're clearing out for Toriono. Go for it.
Yeah,
tell the listeners why this is your Black Panther. Go for it.
Percy Jackson really allowed me to explore Greek mythology. I developed and read the books as I grew up. I want to say from the time I was in 5th grade to 10th grade, I was reading the books throughout as they were coming out. This made me have a love for reading. I'm excited to see diversity. We got a Black Annabeth, which a lot of people were clamoring for. I'm super excited to see diversity.
Wait, can I stop you? Can I stop you real quick? What is it about Annabeth that makes it so that people were clamoring for like a Black Annabeth? Without spoilers.
I think without spoiling anything, I think just her personality. I think like when you read the book, a lot of people try and draw to the images that Rick Riordan kind of made when he was in the process of creating the Lightning Thief, the first book. He had 3 initial drawings, and all of them were of white children. And you know, a lot of people go back to those and reference like, "Hey, Rick had this visual of what they were to look like," but Rick came back this year stating that those were just, you know, mock-ups of what he wanted the characters to look like at the time. And at this point, he's more for diversity, and he understands the characters, I guess, tendencies and mannerisms are geared more towards certain audiences. And I say that because Annabeth, when you read the books, to me, honestly, I pictured a black woman. I pictured a young black girl. And that's just really how I read the book. I wasn't really looking at the mock-up images that he had. I believe they're from like 2008. But those images weren't really something that stuck with me because Grover, to me, if you ask anybody, Grover looks like Brandon T. Jackson at this point. But I'm very excited to see Arian because I just watched Cheaper by the Dozen as well, and he was one of the highlights of that movie. So I know he has the comedic chops. I know he has the abilities. So I see him as Grover, and I'm excited to see all 3 of them as well because Walker Scoble is the perfect Percy Jackson. If you have not watched the Adam Project, please go watch it.
Okay.
I just watched it the first time this weekend.
It was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Oh
I mean,
my God.
I got to take the baton just a little bit because, you know, that conversation, you know, those topics that you touched on, you know, really like is one of the reasons that we even have the Racial Draft podcast. You know, it's the idea that often when these things get written, you know, they're sometimes written by white authors, and you know they're trying their best to depict the world, you know, the best way they can, but you know, often they just kind of default to these characters being white, not because they've given a lot of thought to it as to what the best, you know, the best way of representing these characters might be. It's just that that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind.
I mean,
And you know,
I will kind of sort of jump in here. Not even necessarily just white authors, like people in general. Like, I mean, we don't need to get off on the whole like white supremacy thing, but it's just like it's whiteness is so enmeshed in society that even for years when I was trying to write things, I had to kind of like, you know, finally have those conversations and be like, wait, are my characters like, do they have to be white, or like does it make the most sense that they're white, or did I just like kind of pick that just, you know, as sort of my like default this is what a protagonist looks like. And you know, a lot of times the writers writers that we see end up making changes like this and kind of coming back and supporting these changes are like, I just kind of didn't think about it. You know, that just was first what came to my mind. And now that you think about it, I kind of do see that more in this particular race or what have you.
Yeah, and I think that that's important to sort of, you know, interrogate that. You know, I think that it's easy. It's always the path of least resistance is always going to be like, oh yeah, white protagonist, white male protagonist at that. And you know, and asking and making people sort of take that beat, ask the question, is it possible first that this could be a person of any background, you know, and then to even go further, what if this character was of a different background? Would it actually be a little bit more resonant for both the character and also for the people of different backgrounds that are reading this character? You know, like you guys said, when you were reading this character, you know, you were thinking of a black girl. You know, it may have been that might not have been his overt intention, but you know, in the fulfillment or the kind of the deepening of this character as she gets moved over from the page to the screen, it may very well be that a black actress can best embody the character, but it won't be the case if listeners, not listeners, sorry, if viewers close off their minds of the options of what that of even that being the case, so it's helpful that people keep an open mind with respect to diversity, and keep an open mind with respect to, just because someone one day 15 years ago said, I was thinking white people, that that doesn't have to be crystallized for all time as whiteness forever. And I'll get off my soapbox, sorry. Any final thoughts about Percy Jackson and the Olympians, platinum selling Motown group? All right, we'll talk about. Wait, what did you say, Toriono?
I just wanted to say I'm so excited to see it.
Well, you've almost sold me on watching it. We'll talk further. I'll give you more time to clear out when we get a trailer. But I guess we got to talk about the big news, the woman of the moment, Wanda, help me, Wanda. The Scarlet Witch, while she was taking over our movie screens, she's also taking over Fortnite. That's right. I don't know if she has a dance. I'm gonna assume she does have a dance on Fortnite, because that's what they do, right? Dance on Fortnite, make you pay for dance moves. Yeah.
Fortnite's a dance app. That's what that is.
It's like that's the only time I hear about Fortnite. Someone's dance moves are getting stolen.
That would have been great if in Multiverse of Madness, if it was like the same thing that happened with Star Wars, where it's like Wanda's back somehow, because that's what happened.
Somehow Wanda Maximoff returned.
She has returned.
And it's Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight saying it. They just keep giving him that line.
No, do you know what they got to do? They have to do the first Marvel movie with an opening scroll. It's like...
No, it wouldn't be the first. Eternals did it.
Oh, yes. I forgot Eternals had an opening scroll. Oh, man.
Yep, it did.
It did.
It's like, what is this, Star Wars?
Oh, the Celestials have returned. Yeah, you know what? Just do that with the Eternals Part 2. Just make it the Eternal Strike Back. But you know what that means, guys?
Chloe Zhao, who did Eternals, would kill it with a Star Wars movie.
I hope so. I hope she gets one. That would be kind of cool. But there might be a lot of talking in it. People might not like it. But yeah, more points for Wanda Maximoff for Fortnite. Just 2 points though, because I'm not giving that cinematic points. She's got to dance for that. Speaking of the thing that we're all talking about, the $450 million movie, the Multiverse of Millions, Doctor Strange 2, 180. I think it settled
187.
187 domestically, somewhere in the neighborhood of 450, maybe a little more worldwide. Not quite Spider-Man No Way Home numbers, but we didn't expect it to be that good.
Apparently some people did, so I don't know, but I don't know what world they're living in.
Yeah, I definitely said it was going to be propelled by No Way Home's numbers, because obviously everyone who saw No Way Home saw the trailer for Doctor Strange. But we'll see what the legs are, because obviously, we don't necessarily report about like Rotten Tomato scores here, but the scores, the cinema scopes are coming in a little lower than the average Marvel movie. Obviously, teaser for further content. We may do a spoiler cast for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We'll see how it goes.
If we stop saying mid, I'm serious. I'm so over that. Like, if you say mid unironically now.
No, I didn't say mid for the longest time, so I could use up all my mids for this movie.
I mean, it like I will, spoiler free, I will say that a lot of it, a lot of kind of the backlash I'm seeing, at least my personal assessment of it is I had expectations, whether they were realistic or not, and those expectations were not met.
Yes.
Like there's people who like I will never forget at the end of the movie, like we got it like the last scene, and then it ended, and then the guy next to me is like, oh dang, they told me that so and so was gonna show up in the movie. I'm like, well, maybe you should
Who's the
find
they?
better
Yeah, who's the
source
they
and
that steered you wrong? Well, I mean, but
Right.
like, again, this is not that podcast that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But there were certain things that we were a little bit trepidatious about involving certain characters, depictions on the big screen. We were a little concerned that maybe those characters might not be done justice, and certain characters were not done justice. So as someone who was in the early goings of like, we should talk about it. And as someone, listen, I will say this: there's a certain character that a certain segment of the fan base has been dying to see portrayed by a certain actor, and I have thoughts. But you're gonna
I think. Pardon?
No, I just said that I don't want to spoil it for the non-spoiler listeners. But if you want to hear those thoughts, go ahead and check out our Multiverse of Midness podcast. It will come in the coming days. And
I want to be on that because I have thoughts.
Yeah.
And I have thoughts on things that are like, I guess, like divisive and controversial. Like a lot of this movie's divisive. A lot of Phase 4 in general is divisive. I don't know if I've said it on this podcast before. I've said it on others. A lot of people seem to think Phase 4 is a mixed bag, but no one can agree on what the good projects are and what the bad projects are. It's just like everyone has different ideas of what the best thing is and like how Marvel should be going. And like it's going in a lot of different directions. So some people like some more than others. And it's this whole thing. And I think this movie is probably the most divisive of all of them so far, of the movies at least.
More so than Eternals, you think?
Well, Eternals was like more negative than positive, I guess. I don't know, or maybe it was just more negative than positive for the MCU, I guess. This is more in the middle, I think.
Yeah,
like,
this was more in the middle.
Some people are like loving it, and some people are like really, really hating it.
I would say as far as Eternals go, I would say a lot of the people, at least like, I'm not quite sure if it was mostly negative, but at least the people who were negative on it kind of agreed about the aspects that they didn't care about or didn't like. Like Multiverse of Madness is kind of getting a mixed bag, even in regards of like what exactly the complaint is.
Yeah, the complaints of the character, the tone, the how much it connects or does not connect to the rest of Marvel. Some people are saying it connects too much, some people are saying it does not connect enough. Too many cameos, not enough cameos, or just the right amount of cameos. Like
too much Raimi, not enough
Raimi.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like I was listening to a podcast where they were ranking the Phase 4 movies, and none of them had ranks that
had the same ranks. Yeah,
had the same ranks, and mine
There's only
were
5 so far. There's only 5 movies,
right? And none of them agreed with each other, and they were all completely different than mine. I was like, you guys, like for instance, I think of the 5, my second favorite is Black Widow. Black
Widow's an awesome movie.
Yeah. None of them had Black Widow in their top 3.
Yeah, like I was listening to a podcast where everyone, it sounded like everyone ranked Black Widow at or near the bottom. And I'm thinking that, like, for me, like Black Widow the issue that I will acknowledge is the issue with Black Widow is that because of where it takes place in the timeline, it doesn't feel impactful.
Right.
But the movie itself,
right,
structurally, in terms of what it makes you feel, in terms of how it, like, the characters go on their respective arcs, is I'm not even gonna say solid. It is excellent in terms of what it sets out to do and what it does.
That's why I think like when I don't know if you guys have known me for any period of time, but I am not always giving Marvel the highest grades.
Oh,
But people
good.
usually
I never, I wouldn't think of that of you, Carlos. Gosh.
usually the first thing people say is, well, you just had expectations that weren't met or whatever. Listen, like, no, I'm just judging the movie that's in front of me. Like that's all I'm trying to do is judge the movie that's in front of me. And perfect example of that is Black Widow. Like, I had very little expectation. I actually expected it to be mediocre at best. And the movie that was in front of me is like, this is not a mediocre movie. This is pretty good, especially even in the greater Marvel run. So it's not an expectations game.
But I do feel vindicated. Oh, go ahead, Julia. You go first.
I think with expectations, it's good to have them. Like, you want to expect something to be good, or like you want to judge it for being good. But like the expectations for like specific plot points or specific character appearances,
Right.
that's where it's like, okay, you gotta relax your expectations at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's really that's my only real point there. I didn't want to obviously you want to have some sort of standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say, the point that I was going to make about Black Widow is that I was one of the people who wasn't clamoring for Black Widow at any point. And one of the reasons that I felt that way was I was just looking at where it could have existed in the timeline of the movies that were, because obviously in order to have Black Widow exist, you have to shift another movie somewhere else, right? So I was looking at like all the other movies and I was saying to myself, like, I can understand why Black Widow didn't happen here, or didn't happen here, or didn't happen here. And like, based on people's response to Black Widow, if the exact same movie dropped, a year before, people would have reacted slightly better, but not, like, they still would have wanted more. And that, I just think that the character doesn't lend itself to the kinds of spectacle that some of the other characters do. I think that what they tried to do with Black Widow, and maybe it didn't succeed, is they tried to make her the co-lead of Winter Soldier. And for most people, that's either their favorite MCU movie or in the top 5 MCU movies for most viewers. Like, that, I know is not technically a Black Widow movie, but there's more Black Widow in that Captain America movie than there's Captain America in a Black Widow movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, nothing. Just go.
Yeah. So for me, I was saying, like, but once you do Winter Soldier, now your Black Widow movie has to be as good or better than Winter Soldier, or else people are going to be underwhelmed. And I feel like that's the expectations that Black Widow was going up against, because the best version of that movie is Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And like I said, I thought the movie was excellent, but I understood people's feelings that it didn't do enough, because unfortunately, when a lot of the MCU audience isn't just watching the movie in front of them, but they're watching it from the perspective of, what does this set up?
That's a problem.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
And then people still with the Multiverse Madness, still, like, people in my theater, press and critics were like, you have to see too much, you have to do too much homework to understand this movie.
I mean,
I didn't feel that way, though.
Set up stuff. So like,
that's such a funny sort of complaint, because I mean, you sort of get even if you're not necessarily a person who is keeping up with all the MCU movies and stuff like that. I mean, I felt like there was enough of sort of narration or exposition or whatever that at least it didn't perfectly spell out everything, but at least it kind of give you a general idea. Like, it wasn't like covertly starring Scarlet Witch movie. It's like you got Doctor Strange being the starring person, and then we introduce kind of the other surrounding people there and how they fit into the context of the story. So it wasn't like, some sort of weirdo, outlandish story being told here. It still was something that you could have at least understood based on what was elaborated there.
And y'all know me. I mean, I've been very clear about my hatred for the multiverse. I've been on the record as noted multiverse hater, Michael Ford. And what I will say is that they were able to present the multiverse in a way that I think most audiences should be able to follow.
Even Michael liked it.
What did you say?
Even Michael liked it.
Hey, Mikey, he liked it.
Yeah, this is not the kick cereal of movies yet. Again, we have to save it for the podcast. But I was just, but again, I think that sometimes, and listen, there are various constituencies anytime you want to get into comic movie discourse, right? You have your film Twitter contingent, your cinema contingent. You have your this needs to be exactly like the comics or it's trash contingent. You have
all their own different levels of insufferable.
Yeah, you have your I had all these predictions and things that needed to happen in the movie. They didn't happen, so this is trash contingent. I get it. And you've got to in order to really win everyone over, it's a juggling act. So again, I joke. I mean, we can, again, when we get into the podcast, I'll get into specific things that I had, specific issues that I had with the movie. But I think that sometimes we get swallowed up by the discourse, and sometimes we let the discourse overtake us from just asking the question. You watch the movie, what did you think the movie was trying to do, and did it succeed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is, for me, the discourse is always sort of in my head when I'm watching the movie and I can't get it out, or trying to figure out or whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna be like this or whatever. This is whatever. I remember No Way Home at the end. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this just them as a response? People saying they want Peter to have his own thing. Yeah, I'm like, I could not I can't divorce it. So it's hard for me. And then usually when I watch it a second or third time, I can divorce it eventually, which is nice. But that first time, sometimes it's hard for me, and sometimes I don't have the same experience that you're supposed to have, I guess. Discourse has made it hard.
Well, one of the things that helps me, and again, this is not a therapy session, even though it feels like one, is that I'll see these movies multiple times, and I'll try to see them with different people, and people who I know are divorced from the discourse, and engage the difference between the different people, how they respond to it, and how that contrasts with how I've responded.
I haven't seen this one with my dad yet. My dad and normally go, and I don't think he's seen it yet, so I might end up going with him this week. I don't know. I wanted to do it before I had my big interview today, because it was to do that movie, and so I wanted to go, and I also wanted to go last weekend at the end because I went to a critic screening on Monday last week. Thursday, Friday, I was thinking of going in the evening to get the big crowd reactions. So I'm not gonna get that now.
That sounded like a flex. That sounded like just go ahead and just flex on. It's a flex on camera for us. Julia.
Yeah, I went to. That was my first press screening ever, though, and I've been professionally writing for 4 years, and since before that I've been doing this. So it took me a long time. Okay, I put the work in. I feel like I can say yes. I went to a press screening. So yeah, I didn't get the big audience reactions. We had a few in our screening. So I would have liked to see that. I would have liked to see whatever the general audience cheered at, for example. Because I feel like I would have informed maybe what I was asking. If the audience really responded to something, I could maybe ask about that in my interview. But it was fine. But I would want to see it with my dad maybe, because I'm wondering what he's going to think of it, because he sees it differently. Because I remember I used to be the more casual, not really understanding it person when I was a teenager going to these movies, and now he is, and I have to explain things to him. So it's kind of interesting. It's a role reversal now. So I kind of want to have that experience with this. I think the only Marvel movie I've seen twice in theaters, though, is Infinity War. So it's do we want to make spoilers, but not spoilers, but spoilers on how I feel about it? Do we want to make this one the other one I see in theaters? This one is nowhere near Infinity War for me. Do I want to say, yeah, I saw Infinity War?
I usually see Marvel movies at least twice. In the I usually see them at least twice in the theaters, if not 3 or 4 times. And
it
part
might
of
be more of different people too.
yeah, and part
So
of that is to
it-
sort of gauge, like I said, like what different people like take away from the movie, because I'm coming at it from my perspective. Like I'm in this, like I'm immersed, I'm overtaken by the discourse. Like so many demons, black demons pulling me into the dark hole, right? Like, but like, sometimes you got to pull yourself away and just see what it looks like from a different point of view. And
yeah,
I'm such a simple person as a fan. Like if friends want to go or whatever, then we go. But typically I go by myself just because I don't want to be like the person who has to kind of like try to explain everything to everybody else or have them explain stuff to me if I go with my friends. And so I mean, I don't know. I realize that my experience is kind of as an outlier just because I sort of check myself beforehand, and I kind of have to remind myself like, okay, these people that are making this movie are not mind readers. They are not trying to like perfectly cater to me. It doesn't have to be exactly what I think it's going to be. And is the story like with any story you want to judge, is it consistent within its own mythos? Is
Mhm.
it like something like obviously you have your own standards for what makes a good story, but just is it kind of coherent and cohesive within its own mythos, and then you kind of build up from there to say as far as like what scenes you liked or what scenes you didn't like. But some people are just so like caught up on things that are I don't know, they feel so arbitrary that like you get complaints about certain scenes or whatever that feel like, what in the heck did you expect? Like,
Mhm.
like what exactly were you hoping to happen? So, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's very interesting to see the conversations being had here because it's, leading up to this, a lot of people were putting it as like one of their top things they're looking forward to, and now they're like, oh, and then again, it boils down to that sort of, were you really being realistic about your expectations?
Yeah, and this is where I'll sort of like not quite tie a bow, but kind of roll back into the discussion about phase 4 in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the first phase where we really don't know where the story is going. And
I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
and
phase one, you could argue.
no, we always knew that it was
Okay,
leading
I wasn't
towards.
around then, but like
We
I
always
thought
knew
it
it
was
was leading towards the first Avengers movie. Like
okay.
very early on, they said they're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
do
tell me about the
a series
Avengers.
of
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I
Right.
forgot that.
yeah, like even before that first movie, they said that the plan was to do a bunch
Oh,
of
they did.
movies and then have the Avengers. So like again, we were still shocked that they had that moment of Samuel L. Jackson coming out and saying the Avengers Initiative right there on the screen.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
at that point, the die was cast, right? We're like, all right, so this is where we're like the Avengers are coming together. And then of course we had the Thanos of it all. We didn't know
Yeah, that's
exactly
the end
where.
of the first Avengers.
Yeah,
Right.
we didn't know exactly how long it was going to take to get us
Right.
to the point where Thanos, but we knew that there were Infinity Stones. There were, there's 6 of them. We got it. We anytime they show up, we're like, aha, Infinity Stones,
Yeah.
But because this is almost like a soft reset, post Endgame, the fact that part of what we've had so far in the MCU has been like the aftermath of the blip. And then another part has been introducing new characters that, didn't exist before, and deepening the stories of the characters that did exist before. I think that a lot of people are suffering from the like, what am I supposed to care about? And people are picking and choosing what they care about, but they don't know what the producers and the filmmakers are leading us towards, what we should be paying attention to. And I think that that's led us, and we talked about this before, I think what that's led us to is like poring over everything, all of the Easter eggs, all of the cameos, and trying to glean from that. Is it Mephisto? Is that the thing that sorry, is that the thing that we're the lodestar that we're driving towards? And I think that that's while I think it's affecting our ability to focus on any one project, because we don't know whether this is the one that's going to tell us where we're headed, or whether it's just a side story.
I kind of want to step in here and sort of lay the blame at, people have gotten this idea. I mean, we had, not gotten the idea, we were given the idea that it's all connected. And obviously that sets up expectations. But I also feel like there's just, the kind of sleazeball scooper type folks who kind of want to be the first one to get the information out there. And so we got a whole lot of information that is like, in the midst of us already being uncertain, we got people throwing out extra stuff that like isn't even, I mean, we get a lot of it. We get a lot of people like, oh yeah, breaking news, this. And then we get, James Gunn underneath them like, nah.
I love James Gunn for that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like I think it's been like ramped up to 11 for since Infinity War, since the start of Phase 4, and that has kind of made the fandom discourse toxic in a way that we had hoped would never reach this critical level, but is what it is.
I also think I'll put my bow on it. I think that in retrospect, 5 years from now or whatever, we're going to look back at this phase and go, this was the best they could do with COVID.
Fair. Yeah.
I think COVID is playing a bigger part than they're admitting. Like, they're playing hurt, honestly. Like, I learned this week that Multiverse of Madness was supposed to come out before WandaVision. So they
No, it's supposed to come out after WandaVision, before Loki.
According to Joanna Robinson.
Before
According to Joanna Robinson, it was originally supposed to come out before WandaVision, and they reworked.
That must have been before the announcement at SDCC then, because that's not what I heard. I also heard what it was supposed to be like the first Disney Plus show out at one point.
So like things have been getting pushed around and reworked and rejiggered. And honestly, like, this is the first time I think the seams are showing. Like,
the seams have been showing. It's just that, we were like, when we were in the midst of the COVID, right? Like, when we were in the midst of it, we were giving passes actively.
I mean, this phase in general, like since Endgame, the seams are showing. Okay. The seams are showing. Yes. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant specifically this project.
No.
No, the seams have been showing. Yeah.
We've been giving passes, but I would also add on to that, we kind of have been shown things that have at least given us some reason to kind of feel like, in Feige we trust the process.
Fair.
But even we kind of get like, things don't necessarily turn out how we expect, but at least you can be like, well, at least the thing is going to be good. At least I'm going to enjoy it. And so here again, like the expectations of it all is I don't know, it's just a lot of interplay of numerous factors that make the reception of these things not quite what they would have been in otherwise optimal situations.
Yeah, I mean, and this is one thing that I've talked about before, in respect to movies like Black Panther, where and Captain Marvel as well. Like, obviously there's been a lot of talk about, we talked about it earlier in the show, like white male protagonists, and how like early on, like the MCU movies were very much in that trope. And I think that one of the things that I used to praise the MCU for was positioning projects to succeed, even though conventional wisdom, or whatever you would say, would be that it would be a tougher sell. Like, this is an uncertain proposition. This character doesn't have a really big following. This is will people show up for, a female-led superhero movie or whatever, but the movies like created this world where like that wasn't the most important thing, like who was the actor or who was the background, the ethnic background of the characters. Like you trusted, like you said, trust in Kevin Feige, trust in Marvel, trust in the brand, and in doing so, like enough people were going to show up regardless. So it gave people the sense that like they didn't have to get like push against the stream, you know. But I think that what's been happening, and post Endgame, is that machine's not doing all the same work that it was doing before. So you have a movie like Shang-Chi, and it doesn't make all the money in the world, and then
Pandemic, though, it was well received in Pandemic, that one. Sorry, had to say it.
Right. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, but at the same
Eternals
time,
is a different story, I'll admit, but not Shang-Chi.
yeah, but unfortunately, like down the line, like people are just gonna like look at, oh, Shang-Chi didn't make a bunch of money, and Black Widow didn't make a bunch of money. Like like the context of the pandemic, the context of the Marvel machine not being what it was pre-pandemic, like has sort of like it's not bulletproof like it was before. Marvel's not like scoring consecutive shots and not on fire, to use like the NBA Jam like like analogy. Like they're so people are better like positioned to sort of pick holes in Marvel than where they were before. So we're now in this state where people are second guessing what Marvel is doing in a way that they didn't before.
I will kind of add here, given the fact that the MCU has been going on as long as it has, and given the fact that they kind of dip into numerous different tones and all of that, we're sort of hitting like the zeitgeist version of what the individual comic fan sort of encounters in terms of like trying to keep up with every comic. It's like not every comic is going to be for you. So sometimes you're going to have things that even for me, I like to pride myself on having a fairly wide range of taste, and I still every once in a while I hit that kind of bump of like, nah, this is clearly something that it doesn't appeal to me. It's not for me. And so I we kind of have to just get used to it. I mean, we have folks wanting to be kind of in the know, but it's fine as a fan to sort of pick and choose your battles of like what thing really up like now, rather than trying to keep up with just everything. You can kind of be like, okay, well, what specific thing appeals to me as a fan, not just me trying to keep up with the MCU.
Yeah, but as fans, we're still in the mind, like in the mind state of like, no, we have to watch everything. We have to be on the pulse of everything.
Yeah,
or else we're not real fans. Like if we just let something if you just let something fall by the wayside, like that's a knock against your fandom.
I mean, yeah, that's true, but it feels, I guess, a bit more comforting now that things are not quite they're not quite as cohesive as they previously were. Like, they're not quite as like it's all connected. Like, nah, not really. I mean, you kind of pick and choose what they want to connect and what they kind of don't necessarily stick to, and that kind of does ease the burden. And maybe not everything will be $1 billion thing, but at least you can kind of get closer to a more realistic expectation, as opposed to people being able to kind of look at it and say it's a flash in the pan sort of thing. Now we're getting more toward like moving out of the honeymoon period.
Right. So
I don't know. This whole conversation is making me sad now.
Well,
I want to clarify.
MCU is doomed. It's a too woke MCU. All that. No money. Like Doctor Strange didn't hit 200 million for the opening weekend, so clearly it's doomed.
Yeah.
I want to clarify the Rolling Stone interview with Sam Raimi. He's asked, WandaVision was supposed to come after this movie, which shifted some of the story and continuity, right? How did those changes work? His answer, I'm not really sure what the WandaVision schedule was or how it changed. I just know that halfway or maybe 3/4 of the way into our writing process, I'd first heard of this show they were doing and that we would have to follow it. Therefore, we had to really study what WandaVision was doing so we could have a proper through line and character growth dynamic. I never even saw all of WandaVision. I've just seen key moments of some episodes that I was told directly impact our storyline. That's how they were making it.
Yeah, I already knew that, but that's bad. I know Waldron saw WandaVision. He was like hyping WandaVision.
Sure.
Like,
But Waldron came in later in the process.
Yeah, he came in after this other lady. So,
yeah. So we unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to Julia, but we want to give you an opportunity to say goodbye to the fans. Tell them where they can see you next and read your work.
Bye, fans. Check me out at Julia Delbel on Twitter. I have a fun interview coming later this week that you're gonna want to check out. It's a big one. And it's to do with Multiverse of Madness and some other stuff. So there's that. So that's my big promotional thing for this week. And I'll have a lot of our articles are starting to come out about the movie as well. So I'm excited to finally get that coverage up. And I'll have some other stuff too. I'm doing Bob's Burgers next. So if you're a fan of that,
awesome.
I get to see it next week. So I'll be doing some coverage on that soon.
Okay. Bye.
Always bye.
So we'll say our last words about we got a little sidetracked about talking about MCU, but we still have a bunch of racial draft business listeners. This show is going to be stacked.
Oh, right, the racial draft.
Yeah, exactly. Final words.
I will say that I kind of hate that I was not able to leave Julia with more of a positive note there, because I my sort of my annexed little feelings there on top of all of my previous sort of sad notes was that I feel like the developments here are good developments being made. I don't feel like they're purposely dropping in their quality. I don't feel like they're purposely trying to do anything that is like sort of disrespectful to the source material. There are some things here and there that obviously are not ideal to our expectations, but I feel like generally the majority of the material is something worth looking forward to, even if it's not, like even characters that I wouldn't necessarily put as my faves. I still would be like, the work put together there is still a story that I would potentially be interested in at least giving it a try.
Okay. All right.
And for me to give my brief thoughts,
sorry.
Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness was a phenomenal movie, only because it introduced Rentroy. And if you don't know who Rentroy is, you better be excited for Doctor Strange 3. That's all I want to say.
All right.
I love Clea. I
didn't know if you were tipping off a potential future draft pick, but so we're gonna like break. I mean, listeners, it's gonna be a break for you. It's gonna be less of a break for us, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk racial draft business. So stay tuned. So, all right, we're back.
Meanwhile, the listeners have heard, "Hey guys, Mike Ford from the Racial Draft."
So we are final week of the main draft of the racial draft. How do you guys feel about how you finished up your rosters? We won't start with the returning champion because I already know how you feel about how you finished up your rosters. But first timer, Native American delegation, Toriono. How do you feel about how you did in the first main regular season draft?
Actually, I feel really good for me to be in my first season, to be in the top half of the competition. I respect my competition. Looking forward to seeing how the second half of the season goes, and how the supplemental draft goes. I'm just very excited to have the team that I was lucked into with my original 6, and then I was able to make some quality moves and put together a solid team. I think that we have a good.
So I gotta ask though, Are there certain characters that you feel like got away? You know, like ones that you really had hoped?
All of them.
I think everybody knows that I'm very, very involved in terms of bidding. Um, it's somewhat strategic, but certain characters I just really, really love or I really adore. So certain characters I would really go hard for unless I really couldn't afford them. But there are some that got away. Some of my favorite characters like Kyle Rayner. I want to say who else got away from me.
Well, just I'm gonna clarify because we are gonna talk about the past week. So
Oh yes.
go talk more about characters from before the past week, so we can keep the listeners in a little bit of suspense.
Okay, yeah, you definitely. I'm gonna have to look at this spreadsheet then. That's a deep dive for me because I've been on a lot of characters.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I was just asking if there were any that sort of like immediately sprang to mind as characters you kind of wish you had brought into the fold. Randy, do you have any characters that you certain ones that got away over the course of the season?
I feel like there was timing issue and also a funding issue for a couple of them, but it was definitely Jackson Hyde. Like I wish that I gotten I wish I had gotten him to be on board my team, but I feel like this season overall was pretty satisfying. Like I was able to get some characters who not only like they were faves, yes, but they were also folks who were like potentially really good scorers. Just like it feels like it's my time. I find they're not just like characters that I'm hoping will show up. They actually have prominent roles now that do position them as really formidable contenders.
Now, obviously we're gonna have a little bit of time for you to flesh out some stories. Hopefully, are there any characters? Again, you're not bound by this, but any characters that you currently have that you're looking forward to reworking the backstories on?
I do actually want to attempt something with Aquaman. I'm not quite sure what I want to do, but I do feel like I would want to add some more substance there just because a lot of folks probably can't necessarily see it. There's a lot of kind of an idea of who who he should look like is typically not a black guy. It's either the white guy, the blonde guy that we know from the comics, or the Polynesian, Jason Momoa from the movies. So I feel like there should be some context added there that can sort of have spark more of the imagination.
Okay, well, again, I'm not holding you to it, but I'm sure the listeners would be happy to hear it. And Carlos, how do you feel about how things went for you over the course of the main draft?
I think they went pretty well. No, I would say I got 3 of my top 10, so that's good, and I got people to spend money on the rest of them.
Of course you got Batman, which
yes,
like,
well, I made sure
you buried the lead.
Batman came off. Yeah,
you exactly. Buried the lead there. The
yes,
MVP.
Batman was number 1 on my list. That's correct. But I also I got Red Hood and I got Thor. Those were like 3 of my top 10. But there are characters that like I just wish I had just because I love these characters. Like I wish I had Elektra on my team. I feel real dumb for not getting Moon Knight. He went for $35, and at that, I think if I'm not mistaken, I had just won Batman, and it was like that Dave Chappelle gif with like the holding all the money. Like, I was just like, I just spent a lot of money. I can't spend $35 on Moon Knight. But then as it turns out, Moon Knight ends up being the first Latino superhero in the MCU. So it's like, that's
Now, have you gone through any back channels about trying to get a trade in for Moon Knight?
It's Gordy. I'm not getting. Gordy is fully in anybody but Carlos mode right now. So
that's rough. That's rough because
you know what? He feels real salty that he is a white man who forgot Thor existed. He keeps going. He goes, I just forgot about Thor. I just forgot Thor was there. It's like, how did you forget about a Norse god and you're the white delegation?
Oh man, that is the epitome of getting caught slipping.
But like, yeah, but I mean, just like in terms of like personal favorites, I wish I had Elektra. I wish I had Psylocke. I wish I had America Chavez. I wish, those are the three. Those are the main three.
Mm-hmm.
Toriano knows I wish I had America Chavez.
He's inquired to me a lot the past week about America Chavez, and
yeah, I mean,
I have been clinging on to dear life.
Look, I mean, if not Latina America Chavez, Native American America Chavez, there's a way. There's a way to make it work.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Native America Chavez.
Honestly, like I didn't even feel it when was it last season that Tamati got America Chavez? It's like, go off. That makes a lot of sense. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't.
I mean, she was still Hawaiian. It was like kind of America.
Right.
I mean, look, we talk about it all the time. I just think that, like, in light of all the conversations happening around America Chavez, like, she gotta be Puerto Rican at some point, my dude. We gotta have that. we gotta lock that down.
I mean, we got her in season 2. We did the trade with Randy, where I got America Chavez and I think Kate Bishop, as a matter of fact. But,
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's just it feels right. It feels like It feels like what should, like, in balancing the scales of the world. Puerto Rican America. But
I think honestly, I think the white delegation should have gotten her this year because maybe her name is America McGuffin. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
Oh man. I mean, given listen, given the way America's headed right now, white America Chavez feels like right on brand. She too can't have an abortion.
You were saying, you're just hoping for justice to be done for some characters, and all I'm thinking is, I guess America just never gets justice, right? Justice in America.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, let's just dive right in. I mean, the Swana Mena delegation filled out their roster this week, but before they filled out their roster, they got some approvals for last week's characters. 82% approval rating for Talia al Ghul, which is kind of fucked up because like what's the 18%? What is the 18% thinking that she needs to be?
18% are the Dark Knight purists. The movie.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like French Talia al Ghul. Yes, got it. But they did get 100% approval rating for Simon Baz, who Carlos thought was black, but never letting you live that down.
I own it. I fully thought if they ever put Simon Baz in a movie, it was going to be O'Shea Jackson Jr.
So I'm gonna go ahead and give those bonus points to Simon Baz for 100% approval rating. Also 100% approval rating, our girl Monet St. Croix.
I know that's right.
Still yet to see. Well, no, I suppose she showed up in the ill-fated Generation X movie from the 90s, but I can't remember her. But it just feels right.
That doesn't sound right. Hold on. I don't think, did she show up in that?
I assume she did, but maybe she didn't.
I thought that they actually filled out because even Jubilee they cast her with a white girl. I think they
whoa. They cast Jubilee with a white girl. Jubilation Lee, the Chinese American fireworks superhero.
I am fairly certain that they cast Jubilee with a white girl, and I think on top of that, they probably put another character in place of Monet. I think they ended up putting like Mondo or somebody, and again, like the light-skinned or white passing person with the. I have to go look that horrible thing up, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Wow.
Heather McComb is Jubilation Lee.
Yeah.
Heather McComb. See, white delegation just scooping in even back then.
Who all is the roster? See, now I'm distracted. Carlos, who all is the roster?
Was it Bumper Robinson? Bumper Robinson was in that movie, right?
as Mondo.
As
Yes.
Mondo, yes.
Amaryllis played M.
Oh, so there was an M. There
There
go.
was an M played by Amaryllis. Who is
that?
I don't know, but she has one name and it's Amaryllis. So clearly,
is that the old BET VJ?
Okay, see now I gotta Google it.
That's probably.
Let me see. Amaryllis.
With a Y. There was like a Y in there.
There is actually no Y. It's Amaryllis.
Oh, okay.
There's Amaryllis, if you're talking about the flower, I think it's a Y.
Oh, okay.
Amaryllis.
She was in Sweet Valley High, apparently.
I feel like she was a BET VJ. But
I mean, who among us wasn't? You know.
Wow, she's very Caucasian. I think
No, she's not. She's not. She was on Fresh Prince. She was on.
I mean,
Not that there weren't white people on Fresh Prince, but I'm just saying.
Because hold on, because I think maybe the picture I got is just like very light, because I think she's very light skinned, but that's fine. I mean, yeah, that checks out. She's very ambiguously brown, light skinned person. Oh,
yeah.
Sweet Valley High, interesting. All right, well, so all that is to say that the Swana delegation got themselves some extra browning, and we approve of this message. They also, there was a poll, and there were a series of polls actually, but the big winner from the polls was the Latinx delegation, as they were able to swoop in and scoop up the other characters from the polls. So we'll start off. We'll do one by one. Very quickly, 75% approval rating for White Drax. Okay, cool.
Okay.
But 71.4% approval rating for Latino Iceman.
That's
any thoughts about Latino Iceman?
I guess we just have to be spicy and caliente. We're not allowed to be
not icy, not spicy.
Right. Yeah, we're not allowed.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one surprised me because, based on all the stereotypes, I feel like Multiple Man, is just like in the apartment, right? No. Wow. I mean, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare of conservative pundits everywhere. It's like, you let one in, you let 1,000 in. Right?
He is a one-man caravan.
Yeah, exactly. Jamie Madrox. So yeah, that was 81.3% approval rating.
And this poll is done. Ugh.
No, actually, there are 10 hours left.
Oh,
so there's
I will be sure to downvote it further. Ha ha ha!
Come on.
Actually, you know what? You made a good point. I apologize. I was just listening to strongly approve for Latino Iceman. So actually, Iceman is currently, with 10 hours left, sitting at 85.
Damn.
Oh, that's definitely going down.
You don't have to be a hater, Randy.
It's closer to the threatening mark. Like I could at least have some mercy. People like, oh, it's right at 80. No big deal. I'll just leave it there. 85. That's pretty big. I can't do that.
That's too close.
Wow, it's too close.
Right here, live in the podcast.
Away or anything.
Right here, live in the podcast. You're seeing all the hateration, holleration, this dancery. It's wild. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm drinking my haterade. Iceman is the one that got away from me. I am drinking the haterade.
So what was your vision for Native American Iceman?
For me, I wanted to make him somewhat from the Canada area.
Okay.
Make it
cold.
Exactly.
I wanted to make it make sense. Not like he's from the West or the Midwest. I think making him from the Canada area. So sort of what I wanted to do with I believe it was Doctor Doom. I wanted to make him from the Canada area and then have him come down to New York in Professor X's academy and
Because I
kind of
feel like
just snowball into that.
snowball nice. So I feel like, I mean, I feel like one of the tough things for Iceman that made him hard for like all the delegations to make a, you know, a play for is that, like, you know, he has that background. First of all, he's gay, you know, but whatever, right? But he also has the background of his parents, like, kind of like being a little bit clueless, you know, about what it is to be a marginalized person. Like,
I
they're
mean,
just like,
for me, it literally was like I mean, I never got around to the actual backstory itself, but the idea for me was that he would be kind of like we see a lot of Black adoptees kind of feeling like they sort of you know, their parents want to take them in out of some kind of feeling of sort of moral, you know, goodness and duty and all of that stuff, but then when they actually have to deal with the reality of like, this child isn't an accessory, they're not a pet, you have to actually kind of put a little bit more effort into caring for, you know, their humanity, then they just sort of don't know how to do it. And we kind of get these horror stories about like they end up being you know, mistreated. And so I felt like, you know, I've kind of heard a couple of news stories about that, you know, in that regard recently, and it really resonated with me in that way. So
got it. So yeah, I mean, I suppose that would make sense as an adoptee. But in terms of like his like canon, you know, it was like thinking it through as to like different, you know, what different delegations might have been like a good fit. You know,
right.
it was tough for Bobby Drake, but obviously, you know, like there were still options out there. Moving on, this is a character. This is really close, and since we got some haters out here, I'm loath to say the exact number. So we'll just talk about the fact that Tigra, um, Carlos, talk about Tigra.
No. Why should I? It's only going to come back on me.
No, I mean, as far I'm just talking about, you know, what's your idea of like Latina Greer Grant, right? Is that her name?
Greer, yes.
Greer Grant Nelson.
Yes, her married name. So it's hyphenated, obviously.
But yeah, no, I just I dig the idea of I feel like there is a natural kind of tie. It's kind of actually very similar to the Native American characters, where just like there is a natural tie to like Latinos are tied to the land and tied to their region. And yes, tigers, not from, as I've said about white tiger several times, there are no tigers in this hemisphere, but there are big cats that are native to Central South America.
Sure.
So the idea of a cat people makes sense to me.
100%. And then, you know, and again, you know, going back to the Fox News of it all, there are cat people living amongst us that you can't quite see, you know, and they're trying to take our jobs.
Exactly. Like, and also you know, she looks like Eva Mendes, and Eva Mendes was in a band called the Tigers when she was younger.
There you go. So, you know, I feel like if you had drawn her up, that would have probably put things right over the top.
I feel like if you hadn't brought it up, I might have gotten to the finish line, sir.
So you know, listeners, you know, who knows when this podcast will drop, but if you enjoy the idea of Eva Mendes as a Tigra, you know, go ahead and vote it up. Speaking of characters that you might or might not want to vote up, Naomi McDuffie, named after the comic book legend, but created by David Walker and Brian Michael Bendis. not acquired by the Black delegation. Randy, you have any thoughts about losing Naomi? Randy's quiet because he's muted.
He's heartbroken.
Likely story.
I apologize. I had to step away for a minute. So could you repeat the question?
We were talking about Naomi McDuffie. She who has a television show on the CW. She who has a ongoing book. She's one of the rising stars in DC as far as like Black female characters, and she fell by the wayside. She was acquired by the Latinx delegation. Do you have any thoughts as spokesperson of the Black delegation?
Congratulations to the Latinx delegation. I already said a couple of weeks ago that I'm not in the business anymore of trying to preserve our Black characters. I've done a good chunk of that effort and was rewarded very much harshly on my end. So yeah, I'm gonna upload that one if the poll is available, because nice work. Definitely it's a pick that I kind of didn't expect to get chosen quite yet, but it's what it is.
Carlos, do you have thoughts about how you've reimagined? Is she at least Afro-Latina?
Always. I always keep Black characters because Latinx is not a race proper. It's like Asgard. It's a people. But we have races within Latinx, and there is colorism in Latin America and South America, Central America, and within the United States among Latinx people. So I always try to keep canonically Black characters. I always try to keep them Afro-Latino, and I will extend it. I've made, for instance, America Chavez. When I had her in season 2, I believe I fan cast Harrison
Armanda Negra. No.
No, what's her name from the hip hop show on Netflix? Horizon Guardiola, I believe is her name. God, I can picture her face.
Yeah, I think so, because you also did fan art.
Yes, correct.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's good, at least as a Black person. It's good to know that she's just and because she's adopted, even the last name McDuffie, it doesn't have to be it's just happened to be the family that adopted her, McDuffies.
And I'll be real, I know more Latino or Latina Naomis than I do African American Naomis.
Yeah, so. I know a Noemi.
You know Noemi's as well. Yep.
Yeah.
Noemi McDuffie. There you go.
Exactly.
And to surprise of surprises, I'm pretty sure that poll is gonna be higher for Carlos than it would have been for me. So
that's just.
Well, I believe you just vowed to upvote it. So
yeah, we got to talk about Randy's campaign style. Like he's like, "You're not gonna vote for me, are you?"
How dare you? I dare you to vote for me.
Oh man. So this is shout out to the season 1 racial draft. Deathlock, the idea of Deathlock, the concept of Deathlock. No, in all seriousness, I have no idea which Deathlock this is, but it's the current Deathlock, who is traversing the multiverse.
The current one of numerous Deathlocks. There is no current Deathlock right now.
Yeah.
And who will be a Savage Avenger later on this year?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know the basics of the Deathlock story, which is that people die, soldiers die, and get brought back as cyborgs because of America. It just feels right that if it happens to Black people, probably happens to Latinx people too.
Sure does.
So yeah, I mean, really, it's just an American thing. That's the most important aspect of the story, that America takes downtrodden people and turns them into cyborgs.
I mean, let's be real. When there was all this talk a couple weeks ago about whether or not Joe Biden was gonna forgive student loans, there were think pieces coming out going like, if we make college free, how are we going to get military enrollment? I'm sorry, your society might be fucked up if that's the question you're asking. Like,
and then we had Marjorie Taylor Greene, QAnon Barbie talking about like the whatever her phrasing was for like having a new influx of children that's freaking like whatever it was. She framed it in such a ghoulish way. I think I repressed it, but that kind of viewing human life as sort of disposable resources.
When
So
we say our children are
hearing,
our greatest resource, it's not what we mean.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that basically the Deathlocks can be anything but white, is what like.
It's giving brown. It's giving melanin.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Death POCs. Death pox.
Wait, how is there not like a 90s bad boy hip hop group called the Deathlocks?
The X. Yeah. It was before the Locks were the Warlocks. They were the Deathlocks.
The Deathlocks, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like they all it's spelled DEF locks.
Yeah.
The Deathlocks. Yes, exactly. Def Jam presents. So yeah, currently sitting at 81.3%. So if you feel that people of color need to be turned into mindless killing machines, go ahead and upvote that.
I don't know if that's how I'd frame it, but
I feel like if you upvote, that's gonna be racist if it gets high upvotes. I don't know.
It's racist either way, guys. Speaking of racist either way, Latino Lobo, noted sociopath, murderous, all types of horrible activity, and yet I can see it.
I mean, it would be racist not to think that there could be Latino sociopaths, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
we're just like everyone else. And also his name is literally the Spanish word for wolf.
Yeah,
so
I mean, if we're doing a mocap or like a CGI version of, I mean, it's Danny Trejo, right?
It's Danny Trejo.
Yeah. Danny Trejo Lobo. Like this is pretty obvious. So yeah, go ahead and upvote that right now. You've got 10 hours left to get it up to 90%, because
you have your path to be problematic on that poll.
Yes.
Look, Lobo, I don't know what he's drinking, but he definitely celebrated Cinco de Mayo. So yeah.
He is drinking the blood of his enemies. And his friends, who knows?
Additionally, we got that final pick for the MENA delegation. Sage, who you might know if you're a big fan of the X-Men. I forgot the term for what she is, where she's basically like super genius that remembers everything.
The kinetic mind, I think it was phrased.
Yes, exactly. She was played by a white woman, of course, a white woman on The Gifted, because apparently Middle Eastern people can't be gifted. That's what I'm hearing. But yeah, so now based on this last poll, they acquired Sage for their main roster, but they also acquired Artemis of what's the name of the city?
Donna McDowell.
Bonner McDowell, which is filled with a lot of Black and brown people, so I feel like it's right. Flash Thompson, Middle Eastern Flash Thompson, cool. And Druig from the Eternals, all part of the Swana MENA delegation. But like I said, Sage was the winner. And stay tuned to see how the poll shakes out. Additionally, we had a little bit of racial draft family chaining we got to talk about. This one was surprising. Space Karen, Carol Danvers, got her mother involved, Mari L. who's like, I guess, Space Karen's mom. I feel like that's also Space Karen, right? Isn't Space Karen squared? Only 54.6% approval right now.
Oh, now see, I like that because that's like the same number of white women that voted for Trump.
Oh,
I like that.
Oh, got him. Fair enough. You sold me, Randy. Additionally, currently sitting at 50% is Maggie Kyle, Selena Kyle's sister. She's been through some stuff.
A lot.
Additionally, one of the, I want to say, like, poster boys, the legacy supervillain, Richard Fisk, aka the Rose. Like, you know, his dad's the kingpin. He's like, don't you know who my daddy is? You know, I feel Kyle Fisk, maybe. Or Megan Fisk, you know, depending on your political affiliation. Megan McFisk. But currently sitting at 58.3% approval rating. We should probably vote that up, guys. I mean, it feels right. He's the son of a legend that thinks he is a legend. And,
right.
You know. Another disappointing outcome, 74% approval rating for D-Man, white D-Man. If there wasn't another like mediocre white superhero that gets way too much shine, like who better than D-Man?
You're saying white D-Man came up a little short?
That hurts. Oh man. Polynesian Korg, that one surprised me. You know, he who is voiced by Taika Waititi, 66% approval rating for Polynesian Korg. Disappointing. 75% approval rating for Polynesian Agatha Harkness.
Is that one still open?
No, that one's closed. That is a final number. Let's see. There's some little more family chaining. Franklin Richards, reality manipulator. Sometimes mutant, sometimes not. He is currently sitting at 66.7% approval. So right there, 2/3 approval for South Asian Franklin Richards. You know, some more time to get that vote in if you think, you know, this is, again, family chaining. You got your South Asian Reed Richards trying to get your South Asian Franklin Richards, and your South Asian Valeria Richards, who is sitting at currently 71.4%. So, you know, we'll see if she gets voted up.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of those two, I just want to say I was very happy to hear in Multiverse of Madness.
Whoa! No spoilers. No spoilers.
He caught me.
Another character, surprising outcome, but you know, Randy has already said that he doesn't care what you Negroes think. That's what I heard. Hero of Harlem, Luke Cage, not acquired by the Black delegation, but acquired by the multiracial delegation, who is going to make him at least partway Black. Luke Cage, I think I've heard, is what's happening here. So you know, it's cool. 75.
I mean, that was a good deal of like the fan casting anyway. Like before he actually got cast, they were like, you know, oh, have The Rock. I'm like,
yeah. So you know, we'll see how it shakes out. But 75% is current approval rating for Luke Cage. You know, if you want your Hero of Harlem to be, you know, just a little more palatable. Just
maybe you want your coffee with a little bit of cream.
Exactly. Okay. It's like, you know, you can imagine, just put a little creamer little creamer in that coffee. Sweet Christmas. So the Christmas is a little bit sweeter. That's all I'm saying. I mean, he's already got a predilection for Jessica Jones. It's just
A little swirl.
A little more swirl.
I am dreaming of a partially white sweet Christmas. There we go.
Sure. So go ahead and get that vote in. Still still time for that.
I really wanted to win that one because my fan cast. I've been dying all year for that one. The NFL coach Brian Flores. I mean, like,
I feel that. I mean, he's like, I could not find a picture of Brian Flores without a cap on. That was really rough.
It's rough. It's hard. he's like, he must shower with that thing on. But just like an NFL, he's got an NFL physique, even though he's a coach, because he used to be a player.
Yeah, he played for the Patriots.
Yeah, and he's Honduran, but totally just a black man. If you saw him walking on the street, you would not go, that guy's from Honduras. You would say, that's a black man. And he's from, I forget which borough. I think he's Brooklyn, right?
I thought it was Brooklyn, but I can't.
Either Brooklyn or the Bronx. I can't remember which one now. It's all the same, right?
Hey, not the case.
But he is from the Brownsville section of Brooklyn.
Sounds right. So additional poll results for the Swanamena delegation. Only these are rough. 64% for Kendra Saunders, Hawk Girl. 63% for Ajax from the Eternals, and 54% for Maria Hill. None of them hit the threshold. So just gotta keep it moving.
I mean, is that 2 Hispanic characters and a woman named Maria? Because that just seems like a lot of Latino erasure right there, is what I'm saying.
I mean, I personally was rooting for Shayera to be part of their delegation. As far as Ajax, like, I mean, we're Ajax stands now. Like, what exactly did you have in mind? Like, I mean, unless you're like die hard for Salma Hayek, then yeah, I could see that. But like Ajax, come on now.
Yeah, she's just kind of. I mean, even in the comics, they just recently changed Ajax gender to female. Before it was just nondescript dude Ajax. More white delegation shenanigans. L'Oreal the accuser, older sister, well, not older sister, but Cree sister, not Cree Summers, but Cree sister of Space Karen Carol Danvers, acquired by the white delegation by family chaining, sitting at 75% approval rating. So if you feel like
we down that, I mean, like I say downvote that purely because you have the pink Cree and the blue Cree.
Yeah, but aren't the blue Cree basically the Caucasians of the Cree? If we're being honest.
Yes, but no.
They're space colonizers, are they not?
that race bending, I don't know if I like that.
I'm just saying the Cree Caucasians. I mean, just
the Caucasians.
Caucasians. That is definitely a better fit. Good call. Family chaining for the South Asian delegation through his mother, Jessica Drew, little baby Jerry Drew, climbs walls like his mom, currently sitting at 87.5% approval rating. Go ahead and upvote that if you like the idea of, a little superpowered kid, Spider-Woman's little baby. Nowhere near close to hitting the threshold, though, is South Asian Hippolyta from the Amazons. Even though the South Asian Wonder Woman and South Asian Donna Troy, South Asian Hippolyta is a bridge too far, apparently. One thing that isn't a bridge too far, I think, is we'll get there. I'll loop back around. We also had South Asian. I feel like between the East and the South Asians, they got Kryptonians on lock right now. So
Definitely.
South Asian cyborg Superman, that would be Zor-El, Kara, Zor-El's father, acquired through family chaining. So he's, these Kryptonians, they're just not received with the same regard, being of an Asian persuasion. Is what I'm hearing. But maybe potentially more positively received would be the family of Kamala Khan. Ever heard of her? She's got purple magic powers. That's what I heard. But yeah, Yusuf Khan, Muniba Khan, and also Amir Khan. Isn't that a boxer? Never mind. All sitting at 100% approval rating right now, with a couple days to go in the votes. And shout out to Kamala Khan. She's the next Marvel show up.
Oh yeah, that's true, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The next one.
South Asian delegation is taking a couple L's though. Well, an L. South Asian Conan was not well received by the people. 57% approval rating for South Asian Conan. Now, guys, when you think of Conan, like, what do you think his ethnicity? What do you think?
He's kind of swarthy. Like he's kind of got some brown. I mean, especially for him to have such fighting skills. Obviously, got a little bit of melanin in there. But yeah, he like you kind of see him with like sort of that tan. I don't know, tan, whatever. But it looks like he doesn't look quite Euro to me.
I agree. But the people felt a different kind of way. Maybe it was just all the Schwarzenegger of it all.
Yeah, probably.
67% approval rating for Black Hawkman. Randy, did you feel like you did enough to promote the shirtless pics of our boy to get your Hawkman voted?
I feel like maybe they wanted to like vote only 64% to spite me. Like, but I don't know. They just I wasn't feeling the love. So yeah, more fuel to my fire for this next season coming up, because I'm not appreciating that.
All right. I mean, I feel like the votes you could have got some votes in if you would just put up more pictures of your fan cast. Just gotta work the family.
Work the polls.
Yep.
Yes. Poll work is very important.
I can assure you of that.
Only 64% approval rating for East Asian Cersei, which I don't know. Is that just people who didn't like the Eternals? Is that what happened there? Because Gemma Chan is a snack. Oh, sorry. That is another example of improper poll work. The Polynesian delegation, I think this is the third season in a row the Polynesian delegation has acquired Kiwi Black, the Polynesian mutant. And as usual, Tomati wants, Tomati gets, and he got himself like with no opposition. So currently sitting at 77.8% approval rating is Polynesian Kiwi Black, which again, voting against him does make you racist. So
even though the name is problematic.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Not a shocker. One of the rare times that I feel like the white delegation got right in where they fit, and that would be Cal Sinestro, the Yellow Lantern.
Yep.
I mean, white Sinestro feels like it fits. Feels like it fits. currently sitting at 70% approval rating. I felt there was a little bit of disdain, Randy. Do you think that Sinestro should be a person of color? Is this what?
I mean, not really. I think that the fear mongering white man, it fits. I don't hate it. Like it's not. I mean, Hal is like somebody who he's the Joe Biden of my choices there. Like, okay, fine, I'll root for him, but he's only because the other side is Sinestro. So sure.
Exactly. It's like make what's this planet called again?
I think it's like dang it, what was it? It was crap. Oh well.
I know. I didn't have the Google ready, guys. I apologize. It ruined my MAGA joke. Make Corrigar great again, or whatever this planet is called. But you get it. He's got a yellow cap, but it's a red cap in spirit. Also, the South Asian delegation, family chain, they got Zatanna a little while back, but they also got Zatanna's father, John Zatara, who's, listen, he's a little bit on the brown side. It's not surprising. It would not be surprising if he was South Asian and, just going through life as an exotic magician from the East.
I mean, like, so the thing that a number of people may not know is that the race, that the genetic heritage that Zatanna and her father descend from is Homo magi, and they descend from, like, the Homo magi species of human descends from Atlantis. And I mean, I hate to say it here, but like just in sort of the Nazi ideology, there was a connection between Atlantis and like the Caucasus region, like the South Asian kind of, literally it's kind of in that region that they sort of say has a connection to like the superior race. And so it's really interesting to see that line be drawn there, that sort of connection to be drawn there. And so, do you want to upvote it? I don't know, but at least there's a reasoning and rationale for that, that you could potentially see it as something plausible in terms of the story building.
Interesting. All right. Well, the South Asian delegation is more family chaining, and that would be through our girl Coriander, Starfire. She has a sister, Commander Blackfire. Obviously, if one is South Asian, the sister should be South Asian too. And sitting there at 88.9%, just a little vote up to 90. Get the love.
I might be nice.
Speaking of high percentages, this one, I won't say it baffled me, but it was one of those like, yeah, I guess. Long shot. The what will you call him? The freedom fighter from Mojo World. 100% approval rating right now. Polynesian long shot.
Wow.
I know.
Interesting.
I don't know if I could say too much about Longshot's story and how he touches on Polynesian culture. Tomati, you got to give us a backstory, my dude. We've been severely lacking. Moving on, 53% approval rating for South Asian Donna Troy. There is a Donna Troy hive that's out there that I am somewhat aware of. They do not like non-white Donna Troy.
And it's pretty weird because she actually has been
illustrated as kind of brown. Yeah. Moving on to a couple picks that came through, a couple polls that came through. 60% approval rating for multiracial Shara Hall. 60% approval rating for Polynesian Gore, 51% approval rating for multiracial Icarus, and 50%, wow, 50% approval rating for the Red Arrow, which we talked at length about. Roy Harper, Native American Roy Harper. Toriono, how do you feel about the absolute disgust that the people took Native American Roy Harper?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to turn the camera on for this one because I am in utter disgust of how they have treated my boy Roy Harper. I thought it made absolute sense to make him Native American, to be honest with you. Even in, you could say from a Young Justice or a Teen Titans standpoint, having him be Native American and go through the trials and tribulations of dealing with Oliver Queen, and then there are moments where he's dealing with mental health issues. So I could do
substance abuse issues.
Substance abuse issues.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was a period in the comics that, like, Roy Harper actually spent some time on the reservation.
Exactly. So there's a lot that I could really pull from, and I thought it made sense because it's also a big statistic that the amount of resources that are allocated to the reservations is very lacking, and there's also a large substance abuse problem there as well because of what they put in the communities compared to giving them the resources that they need.
So, I mean, even though the people didn't, initially hit the approval rating, I think there's room there to kind of work out a backstory there, and see whether you could sort of sway people that way. And obviously, we do award bonus points for backstories. So, go ahead and have at it. Moving on. Swamp Thing, South Asian Swamp Thing, canonically South Asian Swamp Thing, Levi Kamei, was finally scooped up by the South Asian delegation with 3 days left, sitting at 83.3%, which means 16.7% of you racist. And we now have entered what we like to call White Week. It's like Shark Week, except the great whites are not that great. So the first acquisition in White Week, Kyle Rayner. We're going to go around the group. We're going to talk about the harm that was done to us when Kyle Rayner became 100% white. We'll start with you, Carlos.
I'm so sorry to Martine for not being able to keep Kyle non-white, but also, isn't Kyle Rayner the Green Lantern from which we get fridging?
But he's also the cool Green Lantern.
He is
the one that's really big into anime, and he's creative, and an artist. Grew up in New York, I
mean, there is a version of that story that's just I'm bohemian, but my parents are very white. I'm into art because I can afford to be into art.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Oh, his name is Kyle. Oh, all right, Toriono. Sell us back on Brown Kyle Rayner.
Yeah, for me, like I said earlier, Kyle Rayner is one of my favorite characters. I've always been interested in him as a character, and the recent run they did with the Teen Titans, where I believe they tried to put him in more of a leadership role. I think there's so much that could be done with this character. His uber potential, I think they've done an okay job of continuing to develop with him, but I think there's so much you can expand on with all the Green Lanterns, honestly. But for me, we've already established that Kyle Rayner is really the cool one. He's the youngest at the moment. the youngest male protagonist of Green Lantern, and I really just, I would like to see him more relatable, in my opinion. I just
feel
want,
you.
I wanted to see how I could do that with making him Native American. I don't
Mhm.
really have a full explanation, but I wanted to experiment with it. I don't have the opportunity now, but I would like to do that next season, possibly.
All right.
So we'll
I
see how
feel
that
you.
goes.
And the other, an additional colonization. This one is a little more controversial because this is a character that was originally white that then got race bent to, I believe, multiracial, but then reacquired, demelanized, demelanized, and that would be Helena Bertinelli, the Huntress. Obviously, those of us who saw Birds of Prey saw a fully white Huntress, and she was pretty cool. She was pretty cool, but
Mhm.
we have noticed in recent years, even though I think the actual technical canon multiracial Helena Bernardelli was more New 52. They've definitely illustrated her in the main universe as on the darker side. Would you agree, Randy?
She's like really dark. Like it's, I mean, not like jet black, but she's much darker than the typical kind of quote unquote exotic,
Yeah.
brown, ambiguously brown, tannish kind of character. She looks like her hair. She doesn't look like she's black per se, but her skin is really on the darker side.
Yeah, it's like if she's Italian, she's Sicilian, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, like so. Um, but went ahead and chased that. Got that crown of white privilege back. So the Huntress back in the fold of the white delegation, 83.3% approval rating right now. So there's time to, if you're in favor of whitewashing our brown Huntress, go ahead and do that if you feel a way.
If you can really feel good about yourself doing that, yes.
Isn't she played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead in the movie?
Oh yeah, so
Mhm.
I said, we got
Yeah.
it. We got a taste of Lily White. We got a taste of Lily White Huntress in the movies. So I mean, it's not a complete disapprove, but
I mean, like, as long as she's, perfect, like Mary Elizabeth Winstead is, I'm good with it. She's got to be she's got to be, a perfect human. What I'm saying is Mary Elizabeth Winstead is on my list, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Speaking of perfect human, no, that's not a good transition. Multiracial Terry McGinnis, Batman Beyond, only came away with a 50% approval rating, which is weird because definitely multiracial in the story. So I'm not really sure what happened there, but that's how people came down on it. Speaking of people, go ahead, Randy.
That was not me.
That was me. I was just gonna say, I'll tell you what happened. We didn't make him Native American. That's what happened.
Oh, that's the hate. Let the hate flow through you.
I'm on my Dave Chappelle. Hate, 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 hate.
Well, speaking of hate, I guess that's where our transition. Jewish Legion only came away with 60% approval rating. Again, Legion, who is also Jewish in the comics. So there's anti-Semitism as well. Listeners, you should be very disappointed in yourself for falling victim to this kind of bigotry. You know who didn't fall victim to bigotry? Peter Quiles. Latino Peter Quill got himself 93% approval rating.
I didn't get to downvote it in time.
Listening to, what is he listening to in those headphones, Carlos?
He's listening to Suavemente. The merengue song played in every quinceañera for the last 25 years.
I mean, you got listen, celebratory. I want to hear the celebratory like tones of Peter Quill.
I just picture like it's a tape like off of like Spanish radio. And
yeah,
so
exactly.
between songs, it's like
yeah, he's going through space listening to like, space merengue.
Love it.
Yes, so 20 points approval rating for Peter for Latino Star-Lord.
I'm trying to think what would the Milano be called? Let's see. Who's the Latina equivalent of Alyssa Milano? I'll get back to you.
I mean, the Benatar would be the Selena, right? You know, like no.
Yeah, that's true. It would be the Selena.
Yeah.
Yes. Depending on what age we make them, it could be like the Shakira, the J.
Oh no, the Shakira. No, wait, no, it's got to be older though. It doesn't. Yeah, it has to be older.
I mean, Shakira's been around since the mid '90s. She's been around since Alanis Morissette.
Fair.
Yeah,
but Quill's tastes go more towards like the '80s.
Yes, it's true.
So that's why I was like the Selena would fit. Also 93% approval rating for Latino Baron Mordo. So another, go ahead and talk about Latino Mordo.
I just like the idea of these characters that sound like they could be pitchers for the Yankees. Like Baron Mordo.
Yeah, you're right. Baron Mordo. Definitely.
Baron Mordo. He's a left-handed, long reliever. That's great. No, there's no race to Baron Mordo. He could be anything. The only thing that would hint at whiteness is the fact that he's a Baron. But no, I think he's usually, or I guess
he's usually depicted with a little bit of like swarthiness to him.
Definitely, yeah, he's definitely not a white man.
No, for sure. Fair enough. So additionally, 56% approval rating for Jewish Rick Jones. Rick Jones is an odd character. He definitely had his heyday in the 80s where he was pretty much everybody's sidekick. He died, came back. I think he's alive again. I think he's going to be hooking up with Janice Vell through their nega bands, which is just a little bit close to being racist. So yeah, Rick Jones rides again. Still hasn't popped up in, has he popped up in live action ever?
I don't think so.
He's not in the Hulk movie.
Yeah, nope. Which is weird because he's like a huge part of the Hulk mythos.
Right. Yeah.
He's a lot. He's like somewhere everywhere. I think he's been part of Captain America's thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I'm just saying, like, I remember Rick Jones when I used to watch like the Hulk cartoon back in the 80s. Like, that's how I was, I think, introduced to Rick Jones. But in live action, I can't really remember. Seeing him. Another win for the white delegation as they acquired Mary Bromfeld, aka Mary Marvel. I don't know. Just preserving one of his white queens, I suppose.
That one hurt.
That one hurt.
No, here's what hurts: 66% approval rating for East Asian Wong.
What? Come on.
I feel like that was done out of spite because what other did you expect that he was going to be like where did you think he was going to fall?
Yeah, his name is Wong. His name is Wong. People, like, he has no other name than Wong.
Yeah, he's like Amaryllis, like
unless they give him the name like Benedict Wong, like from the actor.
Right. But no,
unless you were to do that, but
They wanted him to be Latino. They wanted him to be Huang.
That's it.
No.
I'm trying to see, like, did I get a higher approval rating when I drafted Wong and made it Luis Guzman?
You may have. You may have.
I may have.
Well, speaking of, I mean, this one feels like it should be an L, but maybe not yet. El Muerto, remember him? Ever heard of him?
I've heard of him.
Yeah,
that one's not an ironic question. Heard of him? No.
No, El Muerto, he of the, we just found out him last week, was acquired by the white delegation, like just in time, apparently. They're like, we got to get him now.
That was totally a strategic nomination by me. I was like, they have so much money. They're going to win this nomination. Gordy likes wrestling. I'll give him a wrestler who is not going to score any points whatsoever.
But it's just the principle of it all, though. Yes. You know, it's El Muerto. He's at the top of the world. You know,
I mean, as luck would have it, the fantasy comic league might start counting the points from the Infinity Comics, and then Marvel's like, bam, El Muerto.
That's true.
Who is El Muerto?
Gordy, I was talking to Gordy, and I was like, so I gave you a wrestler. He's like, now I've got El Muerto and D-Man.
So, the tag team.
So now if we're allowed to draft characters who have not necessarily appeared in the comics, correct, but have appeared in, comic book movies and whatnot. Mm-hmm. For the supplemental, so it's like, you've got to draft Bonesaw from the first
Bonesaw McGraw.
Oh, he's ready.
So it's a little bit of good news. A little good news for the Black delegation. Queen Adelana of Atlantis, aka the mother of Aquaman, acquired by a family chaining and sitting at 90% right now. So, do what you gotta. Also acquired through family chaining, Ocean Massa, right?
I'm pretty sure that's not how you pronounce that.
Ocean Massa? No. The
just speaking in the Atlantean. That's how you.
Yeah. Orm. He's the massa of the ocean. All right. Okay. Fine. Currently sitting at 84.6% approval rating. So if you want to help the massa get over, go ahead and cast your approval vote. So another this one's gotta win, guys. I know we all feel away, but like Aaron Davis, Uncle Aaron,
right?
Black delegation.
You would think so.
Family chaining right now, 88.9% approval rating.
Ooh.
So listeners, you got to do what you got to do. Uncle Aaron, there ain't been a blacker character.
Right. Donald Glover played him. You got to give it to him.
Not just Donald Glover, Mahershala Ali in the Spider-Verse. Additionally, through the family chaining, Billy Morales, Miles's little sister, sitting at 75%. Rio Morales, Miles's mom, sitting at 66.7%. Shuri, surprisingly, sitting at 87.5% approval rating. Black Shuri. What's happening there? Was that a vaccine thing?
Yeah.
Well, currently sitting at 90%. T'Chaka, Black T'Chaka, apparently 10%. That's
90% for Black person remaining Black.
10% of people want to muck up the Wakandans. That's what I'm hearing.
10% of those people are the well, if you're gonna race Ben the white character, what if we change the black character, Black King, and make him white? That's exactly who that is. I see every last one of you.
That is what I'm hearing. Oh, this one's rough. Wally West, Black Wally West, not that Black Wally West, this Black Wally West. His two children, Irie West and Jai West. Jai West, that definitely sounds black.
Jai West was the guy who dropped out of Drew Hill right before they.
But Jai West is currently sitting at 57.2% approval rating, which is very low. Irie West sitting at 71 point. They're like, aren't they like twins or maybe not?
Yes.
Well,
right, exactly. My votes, they make no sense at all.
The one with the blacker name has a lower approval rating than Irie. Was she Jamaican? Irie West? No. But fair enough. This one, like when I saw the name, I couldn't help but get full on meme. You need to do your campaign for this. Umar the Unrelenting. Just put a kufi on her and see if you can get your approval rating.
Exactly.
That is Clea's mother, Umar. So you put the kufi on, I'll strongly approve. That's the deal we make. So we'll see how it goes. Her dad, Prince Orini, but he's the king of the dark dimension, right? Like it's only right that the ruler of the dark dimension be a black man. So notwithstanding anyone's Pornhub searches. So yeah. And of course, the Miles Morales clone, Salim, Miles backwards. Obviously, Black Miles, Black Salim. Or as opposed to the 71.4% think it's natural. The other 28.6 were like, no.
I love that Miles's name backwards is an actual legitimate like used name.
I love that it took us a decade to get there.
Yeah. And I just realized tonight that Miles's brother or sister's name is Billy. That's
like for like Billie Holiday. Yeah.
Billie Holiday, totally. Mm-hmm. It's gonna have a dog named Dizzy. Like it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's gotta keep the jazz thing going.
Yeah.
More family chaining. This one got to stay how it is, right? Emiko Queen, who is of course East Asian in the books. East Asian through family chaining, 100% approval rating right now. So
okay. But then you're gonna get like the 10% of folks who think that she should have been cast as like Heather what's her face who played Jubilee.
I don't know what it is. I just kind of feel like it's a better fit, Listen, even the CW, who's notorious, was like, "Nah, we gotta have a, I mean, she's like, we're gonna age her up, so she's hot, but like, she's still gonna be Asian." Yeah, of course. Also, this one is probably a little more controversial. Connor Hawk, that would be Oliver Queen's son, also acquired by the Southeast Asian delegation. In this situation, he's Southeast Asian. So currently sitting at 83% approval rating, 83.3% approval rating for Asian Connor Hawk, Southeast Asian Connor Hawk. Because listen, he's a little browner than his dad. So not feeling it. Not representing the Southeast Asians who are very underrepresented out there. This is what we're hearing.
Is the poll still open?
All right, we're moving on. Additionally, through family chaining. Our girl, I mean, maybe not everybody's girl, Lady Shiva stays in the realm of the Southeast Asian delegation.
Correct.
Through family chaining, through her daughter, Cassandra Kane, sitting at 100%. We'll see if it stays. This one broke my heart, really did. After everyone and their mama saw No Way Home and their hearts were broken. 50% approval rating for multiracial MJ.
I guess they don't like Zendaya.
Wait, what did you say, Toriano?
I said, I guess they don't like Zendaya.
Apparently not. Wow. Who knew?
They were rooting against Andrew Garfield to make
this one, and just the transition from this one to this other one. 92% approval rating for Latina Christina Palmer. So Rachel McAdams, swap her out. Who instead did you have in mind, Carlos?
Oh, okay. Hold on. I can do this real fast. Let's go with someone who has zero chemistry with Benedict Cumberbatch. Let's you know what? Rosario Dawson's not in the MCU. She can be night nurse in every.
Oh. You know what? I'm not mad at it. So there you go. Yeah, because in every universe, he doesn't get her. Spoilers. So yeah, so there's their 92% approval rating for Latina Christina. This one, nobody should approve of, and yet 37.5% of people do. Lin Lee, the Swordmaster, aka we want to have an Asian Iron Fist, so we had created an Asian Iron Fist to counter the white Iron Fist.
30-something%
acquired by the white delegation.
30-something% approved. 30-something% of Republicans in America. Yeah, that sounds about right.
White delegation said, "Your base are belong to us."
Yeah, that's rough sledding. Yeah. This is where we got to hear from this is where we really have to hear from our East Asian listener base, because the challenge didn't come in, but the challenge should have come in.
It should have
come in. That's rough. I didn't mention, but it's still 5 days left. The white El Muerto is currently sitting at 42.9% approval rating.
Make sure you downvote that one too.
Bring our boy home. We can't let this famed, storied character get into the wrong thing.
The long history of El Muerto should not be besmirched. Speaking of besmirching, Midnighter, very, very popular character in many circles, but only 44% approval rating for Southwest Asian / Middle Eastern Midnighter. So midnight, I don't know. Damn, that's rough. 60% approval rating for Starbrand, from Swana Starbrand, which is I was not expected that Brandy would get a higher score than Midnighter. But the people, they did what they did. What else? Right now, Toriono is about to leave us. So Toriono, say your goodbyes to the people.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for having me tonight. Look forward to being on the next episode. And if I can plug like Julia, I'd like to plug, check out Comic Book Saga podcast. We just released our latest episode on the Doctor Strange review, and can't wait to see you guys next week.
All right, cool.
Right.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Great having you.
So like I had mentioned before, the Swana MENA delegation, they got themselves Sage, who's currently sitting at 85.7%. They also got Artemis, who's currently sitting at 88.9%. Flash Thompson, currently sitting at 57.2%. And Druid, 71.4%. But there's still time to upvote or downvote. Astrid Mordo, Baron Mordo's daughter. I don't know a thing about her.
She took Baron Mordo's cancer and gave it to Doctor Strange in the 90s.
Wow, that's gully.
Yeah, she's not great. I think she's had like 5 appearances, if I'm not mistaken.
Fair enough.
She's a real El Muerto.
This one, I feel like just on pure adorableness, I gotta approve, and that's William Grant Nelson, Tiger's little baby boy, little tiger boy. Any thoughts about little baby tigra?
little Daniel Tiger, little beast boy.
I like that. Like whenever he shows up, I just like my endorphins just go through the roof. I'm like, oh, he's adorable, and he's kind of a background character. But I've seen we kind of see a couple of other like baby characters grow up to be like at least kids. So hopefully you get to see more of him in the future.
I feel you. So we're currently sitting at 80% approval rating. So go ahead and vote him up if you want. If you want some more, if you want the rich to get richer with the Latinx delegation. But no, I mean adorable. Less adorable, but a little awesome. This one, I'm gonna put you on the spot as to whether you have a fan cast in mind, and that would be Lobo's daughter Crush.
No, I don't have an on the spot fan cast because I've used my Jenna Ortega card for for Gwen Stacy. But you know what? From Runaways.
I forgot her name as well.
Yeah, hold on. This will take but a second.
All right.
Runaways
no. Cast.
My internet has decided no, it's going to take more than a second. Ariala Barrer.
All right. Well,
she'd be great, actually. Yes.
Yeah, Crush is a cool character. If you were reading one of the later volumes of Teen Titans, I hope she. I did not read the Lobo and Crush book. Did you, Randy?
I did. It was fun. Like the writer who had because we get the kind of first person narration from Crush, and the person who wrote that I'm terrible with author names and stuff, but it was a really fun thing, a dynamic between them. There's not like a little lovey-dovey I'm my dad's daughter. She's like, they are at odds. She wants to do the right thing. She kind of has sort of a similar gruff kind of personality, but she's trying to do the right thing, and she kind of gets roped into like these situations of just mounting ridiculousness. She's just kind of done with everything all the time, and it's really fun how the dynamic plays out.
Okay. And the final character, again, White Week. Daniel West, aka I think he's been both Reverse Flash and Negative Flash. He's typically Black because he's Wallace West's father, but Wallace West acquired by the White Delegation, disappointingly, and through family chaining, he got his dad, which Just like the white delegation, all of a sudden, turns white and his dad shows up. It's fucked up.
Um, like I guess this is my little revenge for I acquired Wally West, and so like you can't have Wally and Wallace. Like I have to have at least one of the Wallies. So got Black Wallace, and
Yeah, I feel it. It's we don't hear a lot about Wally West's dad, but like I said, white Wallace, all of a sudden his supervillain dad shows up. He's like, we're gonna bond, patriarchy. But
so how do bonus points work for these supplemental picks? Like, I don't know if any of them were, I don't know, maybe in a movie last week or something.
If they were in a movie last week, it doesn't help you.
I mean, if they were acquired last week.
I mean, oh, you mean if they were acquired last week? Then I did. For the benefit of the listeners who have not yet seen Doctor Strange, I totaled up those scores off air for the characters that were in the movie, so as to not spoil their occurrence in the movie. But
I mean, I might have a couple of like on the poster characters, so I was just wondering if.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. But like I said, for the benefit of not spoiling any of the cameos of characters in the Multiverse of Madness, don't worry, those points were acquired.
Okay.
But as far as going forward, look, we are about to kick off right before we end this show. We are about to kick off the supplemental draft where things have changed. It's no longer bidding. Just get your character, put it out there.
Yes.
And who better to kick off our supplemental draft than the big star of last week, Layla Al Fayouly.
Nice.
Scarlet Scarab herself.
Nice.
For the Swana Mena delegation. There's nothing negative to say, right?
No,
I feel like the only negative thing to say is that it's a shame she's not in the books yet.
Yeah.
I
really hope. Yeah, exactly. I really hope that they continue to use her in the MCU, and I really hope that she becomes more of a thing in the comics, and then more of a thing in the comics.
Yeah. I mean, and this is the the great time to get in on the ground floor, like she the actress, give me a second,
May Kalamawi, I want to say.
May oh wow, I want to say Kalawi. I want to say May Kalawi is the actress's name, but maybe that's wrong. But
I may have accidentally called her Calamari. Just a second.
Yeah,
I do believe it's Kalamawy. CALAMAY MAWY.
There we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead. Kalame.
This is awful.
Yes.
Kalamawi.
Kalamawi. Thank you. I don't have it in front of me, so I apologize.
Literally had to Google it. So okay.
Yes, but one of, rising star as far as Southwest Asian, North African representation, Egyptian specifically representation. Like that for whatever you want to say negatively about Moon Knight, that the introduction of Layla has been a home run, and Marvel would be, dumb to not try to figure out ways to, get toys, comic book appearances as soon as possible. So, great time for the Scarlet Scarab.
And it says here that May Kalamawi is like she's just all up in there. She's born in Bahrain and she is Egyptian and Palestinian heritage. So yeah.
All right.
Basically, she's all the bad guys from Wonder Woman 84.
Ooh.
I mean, honestly, I think that had a lot to do with the character in the show.
Oh, listen,
it was definitely like speaking to that movie.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the director Mohammed Diaw has spoken out multiple times about how poorly that Egypt was represented. So yeah, there was definitely a shot across the bow, so to speak. Yeah. So there is no way to complain about Layla Al-Fawli. And so supplemental draft has kicked off.
Right.
Stay tuned next week. We will let you know all the characters acquired in the first round of the supplemental draft, along with whoever was family chained and all of those other shenanigans, bonus points and the like. And we're off. Second half of season 4. Right now the usual suspect is in first place, but who knows how the second half will shake out.
Look, I am not in previous incarnations I finished around 4th or 5th, so I am one step above where I landed last time. So I'm we're number 3. We're number 3.
Well, that is fair. So any final words for the listeners?
I'm really looking forward to kicking back for the supplemental draft and just kind of picking characters that I'm just interested on a human level of claiming for the Latinx without having to worry about point scoring and whether or not I'll be able to keep up my incredibly sizable lead. As I look over,
so humble too.
I feel you. This is
my only feeling here is that I have one character I may want to rearrange into the supplemental away from the main draft, but other than that, I'm very happy with my lineup, and yeah, I'm ready to kind of ride on vibes too.
Okay, that sounds good. Maybe you can get some characters that people actually approve of.
Hopefully.
Oh, by the way, Luis Guzman as Wong was off. It got 25%.
So okay. All right. Fair enough. So, but Luis Guzman as El Magico.
El Magico.
It's right there.
Spoilers, he's not in Doctor Strange 2. That would have been incredible.
Yes, it would have.
It would have been amazing.
Deleted scene. So let the listeners know where they can find you. I'll start with you, Randy.
I am I'm on Twitter at RandyS0725, and I use the hashtag superpowerlist. So tune in there if you want any more of my inaccurate geographical and historical facts, as I referenced in the earlier Zatanna segment.
Carlos?
I'm at Carlos Freitas Jr. on Twitter, and nowhere else will you find me because I don't go anywhere. I just live here.
Well, you can find me at MTFIII on Twitter, but you can find the Racial Draft on all the socials at Racial Draft Pod on Twitter, racial.draft on Instagram, and Racial Draft on Facebook, which apparently is still a thing. But if you want to make it more of a thing, hit us up on all of the platforms. We love hearing the voices of the listeners. This is an interactive podcast to a certain extent. We haven't been getting a lot of comments under our draft picks. So go ahead and let us know what you think of the picks, especially Randy's pick, because he loves when the people make themselves known as to why they disapprove of his picks.
Please say it to my face.
But hopefully, if this is your first episode, this was a long one, as per usual. And hopefully it was enough for you to handle. Hopefully you didn't have to like take a deep breath and really take it in. But we do what we can, and you hopefully be back for more. And this is the racial drafts. We have a lot of fun here, and hopefully you have a lot of fun with us. So hopefully you'll be back. Tell your friends. We're just trying to grow this thing as much as possible. So till next time. Whoa, I can't do that. That is a bad transition. We're just, we're trying to grow this community. We're trying to grow this podcast. We're trying to have, this racial draft endeavor reach its full potential. So.
And on top of that, I will add my little tidbit here. On top of that, please, some other folks who are better informed in terms of like film Twitter, in terms of comic, like I want to have the knowledge too. Like, drop some knowledge on me as well. I really appreciate it. I really do.
All right. But catchphrase time. Until next time, all things are possible.